The wrong number that changed everything. How one text dragged me into a billionaire's darkest world. She typed the message with shaking hands, tears blurring the screen, 3 years of lies burning in her chest. One text. One final goodbye to the man who'd destroyed her. But her finger slipped. One wrong digit. And the message didn't go to her cheating fiancé. It went to a stranger. A stranger whose name made powerful men go silent. A stranger who read her pain and replied with 6 words that would drag her into a world of blood, money, and impossible love. Tell me his name, Miss Bennett. If you're watching this story, stay with me until the end. Every twist matters. Drop a like if heartbreak has ever made you do something reckless. And tell me in the comments what city you're watching from right now. I want to see how far Maya's story travels tonight. Now settle in, because this is where everything changed. The rain in Hartwell City had a way of making neon look like it was bleeding. Maya Bennett stood under the awning of a bar called the Rusted Crown, her phone pressed so hard against her palm that the case left a red line across her skin. Inside, through the fogged glass, she could see the booth where she was supposed to be sitting in 20 minutes. Candles. Her favorite wine already ordered. A ring, probably. That's what Daniel had hinted at for weeks. Something big, baby. Something you've been waiting for. 3 years. She had given him 3 years. And she had found out about the other woman from a tagged photo on a public profile. Not a private message. Not a whisper from a friend. A tagged photo posted 40 minutes ago by a woman named Brielle, captioned with a heart emoji and the words, "My man knows how to treat a girl right." Daniel was in the picture. His hand on her thigh. His mouth on her neck. The same gold watch Maya had bought him for his birthday was glinting off the camera flash. Maya had been getting ready when she saw it. Still in her robe. Mascara half done. She had sat on the edge of the bathtub for a full 10 minutes without moving, without crying, without breathing right. Then she had gotten dressed anyway, because some part of her needed to see him, to watch his face when he realized she knew. But now, standing outside the bar, she couldn't make herself go in, because if she went in, she would scream, she would throw the wine glass, she would make a scene, and her mother would hear about it from her aunt, and her aunt would hear about it from the woman who cut her hair, and by Sunday, Maya Bennett would be the girl who lost her mind in public. No, she was not going to give him that. She was going to do this the clean way, the cold way, the way that hurt him. Her thumb shook as she opened the message app. She scrolled to Daniel's name right at the top, where it had lived for 3 years. And she started typing. Daniel, I saw the picture. Brielle, the watch I bought you. I'm not coming tonight. I'm not coming ever again. Don't call me. Don't come to the apartment. My sister will drop your things at your mother's house on Saturday. I wasted 3 years thinking you were a man. You're a coward. Don't ever contact me again. She read it twice. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. She added, I hope she's worth everything you lost. Then she pressed send. Her hand was shaking so violently that she didn't notice at first what had happened. She had been scrolling at the top of her messages, and his contact, Daniel Vance, had been right above another name she had tapped earlier that week by accident. A delivery confirmation number. A burner-looking contact with no name, just a string of digits she'd saved to call back about a package that never came. Her thumb had missed by a fraction of an inch. The message she meant for Daniel had gone to a number she didn't know. Maya didn't realize it yet. She just stood in the rain, breathing like someone had hit her in the chest, and waited for a reply that would never come from Daniel, because Daniel had never received the message. 30 seconds passed. Then her phone buzzed. She looked down, heart in her throat, expecting his name. Instead, she saw, unknown. You have the wrong number. Maya frowned, blinked, read it again. Unknown. But I read it anyway. I'm sorry. For a second, she couldn't even process the words. Her brain was still in the booth inside the bar, still watching Daniel's mouth form the word baby, still feeling the ring that wasn't going to exist. She stared at the screen. Unknown. Are you safe? That was the question that broke her. Not who is this? Not LOL wrong number. Not a laughing emoji or a man trying to make it weird. Just, are you safe? Maya's eyes filled up so fast she had to tilt her head back to keep the tears from falling, and the awning dripped cold water down the back of her collar. She laughed once, ugly, and wiped her face with the back of her wrist. She typed, "Sorry, wrong person. Ignore it." She hit send, then stared at the phone like it had grown teeth. The reply came in 9 seconds. Unknown. I'm not going to ignore it, but I won't push. Are you somewhere safe right now? She was standing outside a bar in the rain with a man she used to love sitting 20 feet away from her, waiting to propose to her with her own money, probably. She was not safe. Not in any way that mattered. She typed, "I'm fine." Unknown. That's not what I asked. Maya actually laughed out loud this time, and a man walking past her on the sidewalk turned his head. She pressed her hand over her mouth. "Who is this?" she typed. There was a longer pause this time, almost a full minute. She watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Unknown. "My name is Victor. I'm going to guess you don't know me, and there's no reason you should. I got your message by accident, the same way you sent it by accident. I'm not going to screenshot it, I'm not going to share it, and I'm not going to contact you again after tonight unless you want me to. But before I delete it, I want to make sure you're not standing somewhere you shouldn't be." Maya read it 3 times. Something about the way he wrote, the rhythm of it, the short, flat sentences, like a man used to being listened to, like a man who didn't waste a word because he didn't have to. She looked up at the bar. Through the window, she could see Daniel now. He had arrived. He was at the booth, checking his watch. Her watch. The one he was wearing in the picture with his hand on another woman's leg. She turned her back to the window. "I'm outside a bar," she typed. "I just found out my fiancé has been cheating on me for God knows how long." The message was for him. "I hit the wrong name. I'm sorry you had to read it." She paused, then added, "I'm not hurt, physically. I don't know what I am." Victor. You don't have to know yet. She stared at those 6 words. Victor. Is he inside? Yes. Victor. Does he know you know? No. Victor. Are you going to go in? I don't know. Another pause. Victor. Don't. Maya's eyebrows went up. Victor. You're angry. You want him to see your face. I understand, but if you go in there right now, he is going to talk you in a circle, and you're going to leave feeling worse. Men like that have a script. Go home. Make him come to you. Make him chase the answer. It hurts them more. She didn't respond for a long time, because the thing was, he was right. Daniel did have a script. Daniel could make her feel crazy in 30 seconds flat. Daniel had once convinced her that a lipstick stain on his collar was from his cousin's baby. Who are you? She typed. Victor. Nobody you need to worry about. Are you going home? Yes. Victor. Alone? Yes. Victor. Text me when you get inside, just the word home. You don't have to say anything else, then I'll leave you alone. Maya stood under the awning of the rusted crown for another full minute, rain hissing on the pavement, the neon bleeding, and she did something she could not explain to anyone, not even herself, for a long time afterward. She turned around. She walked to the curb. She raised her hand for a cab, and she went home. The apartment was on the 4th floor of a pre-war building on Crestmore Avenue, the kind with crown molding that didn't match the cheap countertops and radiators that banged like somebody was trapped inside them. Maya let herself in, dropped her keys in the dish by the door, and stood in her own living room like a guest. Daniel's jacket was on the back of the couch. His coffee mug was in the sink with a ring of dried milk in it. His running shoes were by the door, one of the laces still untied from that morning. She walked through the apartment slowly, touching nothing, looking at all of it like a museum she was about to close. The photo of them at Lake Arwen on the side table, the stupid ceramic elephant he had brought her from Mexico, the throw blanket he always pulled over his feet while he watched TV. 3 years. 3 years of her body. 3 years of her laugh. 3 years of Sunday breakfasts and hospital visits when her father had his surgery, and the time she cried in the car for an hour because her boss had called her slow, and Daniel had just held her hand and said, "He doesn't know you, Maya. I know you." And he had been texting somebody else the whole time, probably. She sat down on the floor. Not on the couch. On the floor, with her back against the coffee table. Her knees drawn up, her phone loose in her hand. She opened the message thread with the stranger. Home, she typed. The reply came immediately. Victor. Good. Then, a second later, Victor. Lock the door. She got up. She locked the door. She sat back down. Done. Victor, eat something. She laughed out loud in the empty apartment. I can't. Victor, toast, crackers, anything. Your hands are probably shaking. They were. She hadn't noticed until he said it. She got up again. She walked to the kitchen. She put 2 slices of bread in the toaster and watched them until they were too dark. Then she ate them standing up at the counter, crumbs falling on the floor, tears running down her face without sound. When she was done, she picked up her phone. Why are you being nice to me? She typed. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared. Victor, I'm not always nice. She didn't know what to do with that. Victor, get some sleep, Miss Bennett. She froze. She read the name again. Miss Bennett. She had not told him her name. She had not signed the message. Her phone number wasn't attached to her full name on any service she could think of off the top of her head. Her thumbs hovered. How do you know my name? The reply took almost 2 minutes. Victor, because I looked. That's what I do. I won't do it again without your permission. Sleep. And then he was gone. The 3 dots didn't come back. The read receipt never came. The thread just sat there, a small green bubble at the bottom of her screen, and Maya sat on the kitchen floor holding her phone to her chest and breathing. She should have been afraid. She was not. She was not. And that was the first thing about Victor Hale that she would never be able to explain. Daniel called her at 11:47 p.m. She did not pick up. He called again at 11:52, at 11:58, at 12:04. At 12:11, he started texting. Babe, where are you? Babe, the restaurant closed. I'm coming home. Maya, pick up Maya. I'm getting worried. Maya, are you okay? She watched the messages come in. Each one lit up her screen in the dark bedroom. She had not turned on a single light. She was sitting on the edge of the bed in the same wet dress because taking the dress off meant standing up, and standing up meant admitting she lived here, and she wasn't ready to admit anything yet. At 12:28, his key turned in the lock. Maya? His voice came through the apartment, bright and worried and so perfectly pitched that she almost believed it. Babe? You home? She didn't answer. She heard him drop his keys in the dish. She heard him kick off his shoes. She heard the refrigerator open and close. He was getting a beer, like he always did, like this was any other night. And then his footsteps down the hallway. He opened the bedroom door. Jesus, he said, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? He flipped the light on. She blinked at him. He had loosened his tie. His hair was slightly mussed. He looked, honestly, like a man who had just come home from an ordinary dinner where his girlfriend had stood him up. Babe, what happened? He said, walking toward her. I waited an hour. You didn't answer. Are you sick? Are you okay? Don't, Maya said. He stopped. Don't come any closer, she said. Don't sit down. Don't touch me. Daniel's face did a thing. It was a very small thing, and if she hadn't been staring directly at him, she would have missed it. A tiny flicker. A recalibration, like a man looking at a dashboard and deciding which warning light to react to first. Okay, he said, slow. Okay. Talk to me. What's going on? Who's Brielle? He didn't answer for half a second too long. Who? He said, and that was it. That was the moment. That was the half second where he decided to lie, instead of the half second where he would have told the truth, and Maya felt something inside her chest close up like a fist. Brielle, she said. Posted a picture of you on her profile tonight, her hand on your chest, your hand on her thigh. You're wearing the watch I got you. Do you want me to pull it up, Daniel, or are you going to save us both the time? His mouth opened, then closed. Then he did the thing she hated most of all. He sat down on the edge of the bed, not next to her, but near enough, and put his face in his hands. Baby, he said. No. Baby, I can explain. No, Maya said. Her voice was not loud. It was the quietest her voice had ever been in an argument with him, and that was how she knew something in her had broken all the way through. You can't. There is no explanation. I saw the picture. It was posted tonight. You're sitting here right now telling me you don't know her name. I'm done. We're done. Maya, get your stuff out by Saturday. Leave the key. He looked up. His eyes were wet. He was good at that. He had always been good at that. In 3 years, she had seen him cry 4 times, and 3 of them had been when he was caught in something. "You're not serious," he said. "I'm so serious." "Maya, we're engaged." "We're not engaged. We were never engaged. You bought a ring once and carried it around for 2 months and then returned it. You think I don't know that? Your mother told my mother." His face changed again. The sadness dropped off like a mask. "You always do this," he said. "Do what?" "Make it about something small, something petty, a picture, a ring. Like 3 years doesn't mean anything. Like we haven't been through, you're cheating on me, Daniel. I made a mistake. You made a whole relationship." He stood up. He was taller than her by almost a foot, and he knew how to use it, and he used it now. Not in a scary way, not in a way anyone watching from the outside would have called violent. He just stood over her and let her feel small. "You're being dramatic," he said. Maya's phone buzzed in her hand. She didn't look at it. She didn't have to. Some part of her knew. "Get out," she said. "This is my apartment too. Your name isn't on the lease. Maya, get out." And because he was Daniel, and because Daniel always had to have the last word, he leaned down close to her face and said quietly, so quietly, "You're going to regret this. You'll call me in a week. You always do." Then he walked out. He didn't slam the door, he shut it softly, which was worse, because it meant he thought this was temporary. Maya sat on the bed in the lit room and finally looked at her phone. "Victor. If he's still there, walk out." She stared at it. "Victor. I don't care where you go. A neighbor, a lobby, a 24-hour diner. Just don't be alone in a room with him." She typed with numb fingers. "How did you know he was here?" The reply took a long time. "Victor. I didn't. I guessed. Men like that always come home to check on what they think they own." Maya sat on the bed with the light on and the apartment quiet and the front door still warm from Daniel's hand on the knob, and she realized she was talking, really talking, to a stranger whose full name she didn't even know, and that she was about to tell him more things than she had ever told the man she had almost married. "He's gone," she typed. "Victor, good. Deadbolt." She got up. She walked to the door. She turned the deadbolt. "Done. Victor. Sleep if you can. Don't read his messages tonight. Whatever he sends, it's not real. He's already writing the version of this where you're crazy." Maya laughed. Not a good laugh, the kind that comes out of your nose. "Who hurt you, Victor?" There was a long silence. "Victor. A lot of people. Good night, Miss Bennett." She slept 4 hours. When she woke up, the city outside her window was gray and her phone had 42 messages from Daniel, 3 missed calls from her sister Erin, 1 voicemail from her mother, and a single text from Victor. "Victor, drink water before coffee. Your head is going to hurt." She stared at it for a long time. Then she got up, drank a full glass of water standing at the kitchen sink, and made coffee. Her head still hurt, but less. Hartwell City, in the morning, had a specific smell. Wet stone and bakery steam and the sourness of bus exhaust. And Maya walked through it the way a sleepwalker walks through a dream. She had called out of work. She had not told Erin yet. She had not listened to her mother's voicemail. She had instead put on sneakers and a coat over yesterday's dress and walked, because the apartment was too small and too full of Daniel's ghost. She ended up at a diner on 5th and Morrow, the kind with vinyl booze and a pie case that rotated. She ordered coffee and toast and sat by the window and watched the city wake up. Her phone sat face down on the table. She had not replied to Victor yet. She had read the message 11 times. Finally, she turned the phone over. She opened the thread. "Thank you," she typed. Then, before she could stop herself, "I don't know why I'm thanking you. I don't know you. You could be anyone. Victor, I could be. Victor, are you eating? Toast. Victor, again? It's what I know how to do right now. Victor, fair?" She hesitated, then, "Can I ask you something?" Victor, "Yes. What do you do? For work?" The 3 dots appeared and stayed for a long time. Victor, "I solve problems for people who can afford to have them solved." Maya read it twice. "That's a non-answer." Victor, I know. Are you a lawyer? Victor. No. Are you a criminal? A pause. Victor. That depends on the country. Maya set the phone down. She stared out the window. A woman was walking a large gray dog past the diner. The dog stopped to smell a parking meter. The woman waited, patient, unbothered. Maya picked the phone up. Should I be scared of you? Victor. No. Victor. You should be scared of the man whose number you were trying to send that message to, but not of me. Why? Victor. Because I have no reason to hurt you, and because I don't hurt women, ever. She believed him. She had no reason to, and she did anyway. And later she would look back at that moment in the diner with the lukewarm coffee and the gray dog outside and recognize it as the exact instant her old life ended and her new one began. She just didn't know it yet. The first time Maya saw Victor Hale in person was 4 days later, and she didn't know it was him. She was leaving her office building on Ainsley Street, walking to the subway, her head down against the wind. There was a black car parked across the street, a long one, the kind with tinted windows that nobody she knew drove. She walked past it without looking. She did not see the man in the back seat. She did not see him watching her through the glass, unmoving, phone in his hand, thumb hovering over a message he did not send. She did not see him tell the driver go, quietly, after she had turned the corner. She did not see any of it. But that night, when she got home, there was a text. Victor, you shouldn't walk to the subway alone at night. Maya stared at her phone. She was standing in her kitchen with her keys still in her hand. How do you know I did? A long silence. Victor, I saw you. Her heart did a small, frightened skip. Where? Victor, Ainsley, 7:12 p.m. I wasn't going to tell you. I thought it would be better if I didn't, but I told you I wouldn't look without your permission, and I want to be honest. Were you following me? Victor, no, I had a meeting 2 blocks from your office. I saw you by accident. I watched you walk past my car. That's all. Maya put the keys down on the counter. She sat on one of the stools she and Daniel had bought together at a flea market 2 summers ago. She stared at the phone. You have to stop this, she typed. Victor, I know. I don't know you. I don't know what you want. I don't know why you're being... Whatever this is, you're a stranger. You're in my phone. You're across the street from my office. This isn't normal. Victor, you're right. It isn't. A pause. Victor, I'll stop, if that's what you want. Say the word, and I delete this thread, and you never hear from me again. Maya sat there for a long minute. The apartment was quiet. The radiator banged. Daniel's mug was still in the sink, and she had not been able to make herself wash it. His jacket was still on the couch. His shoes were still by the door. She had told him to get his stuff out by Saturday, and Saturday was tomorrow. And he had not come, and he had not called, and he had instead gone to Brielle, probably, and posted nothing about it this time because he had learned. She looked at the phone. She did not type delete the thread. She typed, who are you really? The 3 dots appeared. Victor. My name is Victor Hale. I was born in a town you've never heard of. I run a company that does things most people don't understand, and the things people do understand about it they don't like. I have more money than is decent. I have more enemies than is safe. I have lived most of my life alone, by choice, and I have gotten used to it. And 4 nights ago, a woman I did not know sent me a message meant for the man who was breaking her heart. And for reasons I have not fully worked out yet, I have not been able to stop thinking about her. Maya read the message. Then she read it again. Then she set the phone down on the counter, and she put her face in her hands, and she laughed. Not happily, not sadly, just a small, astonished laugh. Because some part of her had known, she had known from the first, are you safe, that this was not going to be something she could walk away from clean. She picked up the phone. I don't know what to do with that, she typed. Victor, you don't have to know yet. It was the second time he had said that to her, and it was the second time she had believed him. Aaron showed up on Saturday morning with 2 coffees and a bagel and the particular face older sisters have when they are trying very hard not to say I told you so. You look like hell, Aaron said, walking past her into the apartment. Good morning to you too. Where's his stuff? Not touched. Maya. I know. Aaron set the coffees down. She looked at the couch. Daniel's jacket, and the shoes by the door and the mug in the sink, and her face did something complicated. You want me to box it? Please. You want to be here when I do it? No. Go for a walk. I'll handle it. Maya nodded. She picked up her coat. At the door, Erin caught her sleeve. Hey, Erin said. You okay? No? Okay, just checking. Maya laughed, and her eyes filled up, and she hugged her sister hard and fast, and then she left the apartment before she could cry in front of her. She walked for an hour. No destination, just streets, the park by the river, the little bridge, the coffee place where Daniel had spilled an iced latte down her white coat, and she had been so embarrassed, and he had been so charming about it, that she had fallen in love with him all over again right there on the sidewalk. God, she hated him. She hated him with a clean, bright hatred that she had not been allowed to feel in the first few days. Because in the first few days, it had all been grief. But now, 7 days later, the grief was starting to crack, and the anger was coming up through the cracks like groundwater, and Maya thought, distantly, that this was probably a healthy development. Her phone buzzed. Victor, how are you today? She smiled before she could stop herself. My sister is boxing his stuff. Victor, good, I'm walking. Victor, where? She hesitated, then, the park by Hawthorne Bridge. Victor, pretty there, have you been? Victor, once, a long time ago. A pause. Victor, Maya. It was the first time he had called her Maya, not Miss Bennett. Maya. And her stomach did a thing it had no business doing, standing on a bridge in a wet coat a week out from the worst night of her life. Yes, Victor, I'm going to be in Hartwell on Tuesday. I have a dinner. It's at a place called Alder and Finch. It starts at 8. If you wanted to come, I would be glad. If you don't want to come, I will understand and I will not ask again, but I want you to know I'm asking because I would like to meet you, and not for any other reason. Maya stood on the bridge and stared at the screen. She thought about a lot of things in that second. She thought about Daniel's face when he had said, "You're being dramatic." She thought about the picture of Brielle. She thought about the watch. She thought about her mother's voicemail that she still had not listened to. She thought about all the reasonable, careful, sensible women she knew and what they would tell her to do. Every single one of them would tell her not to go. She typed, "What time should I be there?" Victor, 7:45. I'll send a car. I can take a cab. Victor, I know you can. I'd rather send a car. She almost argued. She didn't. Okay. Victor, thank you. She put the phone in her pocket. She stood on the bridge in the cold with her hands in her sleeves, and she looked down at the slow dark water, and she thought, I do not know what I am doing. Then, because some part of her was already tired of being the girl who did the sensible thing and got cheated on anyway, she thought, good. Tuesday night, 7:44 p.m. The car was black, long, the kind Maya had walked past 100 times in this city without ever riding in one. The driver was a man in his 50s with a neat gray beard and quiet hands, and he opened the back door for her without asking her name, which meant he already knew it. Good evening, Miss Bennett, he said. Good evening. Alder and Finch. 12 minutes. She slid into the back seat. The leather was warm. There was a bottle of water in a holder by the door and a folded cashmere throw on the seat next to her that she did not use because if she touched it, she would start crying, and she had spent an hour on her eye makeup. The car pulled into traffic. Maya looked out the window at the city sliding past, neon on wet pavement, a man selling roasted nuts on a corner, a couple arguing under an umbrella. And she thought about the girl who had stood outside the Rusted Crown 8 days ago with a phone in her shaking hand. That girl had not known she was about to send a message to the wrong number. That girl had not known a stranger named Victor Hale was going to read it. That girl had not known that a wrong number could be the first honest thing that happened to her in 3 years. Maya smoothed the front of her dress. She breathed in. She breathed out. The car slowed. Ahead of her, through the windshield, she could see a restaurant with warm gold light spilling out onto the sidewalk, and a man standing at the curb in a dark coat, his hands in his pockets, his head tilted slightly down against the cold. He looked up as the car pulled to a stop. Maya saw his face for the first time through the tinted glass, and somewhere, in the very quiet back of her mind, a voice she did not entirely recognize as her own said very calmly, "Oh, there you are." The driver came around to open her door before Maya had finished deciding whether she wanted to get out. She got out anyway. The cold hit her first, then the sound of the city, a car horn somewhere, the hiss of a bus brake 2 blocks down, a woman laughing under an awning across the street, and then the man at the curb, the one she had seen through the windshield, straightening up and taking his hands out of his pockets as she stepped onto the sidewalk. He was taller than she had expected, not in a way that was meant to be impressive, in a way that just was. His coat was plain black wool, good wool, the kind that does not wrinkle. His hair was dark and cut close and had the faintest threads of gray at the temples, which surprised her because in her head he had been younger. He wasn't young. He was maybe 38, maybe 40. It was hard to tell because his face did not move the way most people's faces moved. It was still, watchful, the kind of face that had learned a long time ago to give nothing away unless it wanted to. His eyes were a pale, cold color, gray or very light blue. In the gold light from the restaurant window behind him, they looked almost silver. "Miss Bennett," he said. "Maya," she said. "Please." Maya. He said it the way a person says a word they have been saying in their head for a while, getting it right. He did not offer his hand. He did not touch her. He simply stepped half a pace to the side and nodded toward the door of Alder and Finch, and she understood, without being told, that she was meant to walk in first. She did. The inside of the restaurant smelled like butter and rosemary and old wood. A woman in a black dress at the hostess stand looked up, saw Victor, and her face did a small tight thing that was not quite a smile, more like a door being politely held open. "Mr. Hale," the hostess said. "Good evening. Your table's ready." "Thank you, Inez." He put a hand lightly at the small of Maya's back as they walked. It did not linger. It did not push. It was there, and then it was not. And that was what Maya noticed about him across the whole evening. Nothing he did took up more space than it needed to. The table was in a corner, not at the window, where a date might want to sit, not in the middle, where men who wanted to be seen sat. In a corner, with a view of the door, his back to the wall. Maya registered the choice without commenting on it. A waiter appeared, disappeared. Water arrived. Victor did not pick up the menu. "You already know what you're having," Maya said. "I've eaten here before." "What are you having?" "The lamb." "Is it good?" "It's why I come." She picked up her own menu, glanced at it, put it down. "Then I'll have the lamb." "You don't have to." "I don't feel like reading tonight." A very small thing happened at the corner of his mouth. It was not a smile. It was the hint of a place where a smile might eventually be. "Fair," he said. The waiter came back. Victor ordered for both of them without looking at the man, which Maya would have found annoying from anyone else. From him, somehow, it didn't land that way. It was the way he ordered, quiet, finished sentences, no ego in it, that made it feel less like a performance and more like a habit so old it had worn smooth. When the waiter was gone, there was a silence. Maya picked up her water and drank some of it, because she didn't know what else to do with her hands. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Victor said. "I wasn't sure either." "What changed?" She set the glass down. She thought about lying. She didn't. "I got tired," she said, "of being the sensible one. For 3 years I was the sensible one. I made the budget. I remembered his mother's birthday. I stayed when I shouldn't have stayed. I believed him when he told me the lipstick on his shirt was from a cousin. Sensible got me nothing. So I thought, one time, I'll do something stupid. Am I the stupid thing? You tell me." He considered her. He had a way of looking at a person that was not comfortable exactly, but also was not rude. It was the look of a man who was used to measuring things and had decided somewhere a long time ago that people were no different from anything else he measured. "Probably," he said. She laughed. She had not expected to laugh. It came out of her short and surprised. "Okay," she said. "At least you're honest about it." "I try to be." "Most of the time?" "Most of the time." A basket of bread came. Maya tore a piece off. She wasn't hungry. She ate it anyway because Victor had, once, told her to eat something when her hands were shaking, and her hands were shaking now, lightly, and some part of her had filed away that instruction as a general rule. "Can I ask you questions?" she said. "You can ask me anything." "Will you answer them?" "Not all of them." I won't lie to you, Maya. That's the one thing I can promise you tonight. But there will be questions I won't answer, and when that happens, I'll tell you I'm not answering instead of making something up. Fair, she said. It was the word he had used earlier. She hadn't meant to echo it. He noticed. He didn't say anything. Question 1, she said. What do you actually do? I own a firm called Hale Strategic. Which does risk, security, crisis work. If a shipping company has a problem at a port, they call us. If a family office needs to move a principal across a border where that principal isn't popular, they call us. If a CEO wakes up and finds a photograph in his inbox that he does not want published, sometimes, not always, we are the people who make that photograph not be published anymore. You mean you pay for it? Sometimes we pay, sometimes we don't. What's the other option? He looked at her for a long moment. Sometimes, he said, the person holding the photograph decides on their own that they'd rather not have it anymore. Maya put the bread down. Are you telling me you threaten people? She said. I'm telling you that people, when they meet me, often arrive at conclusions they had not previously arrived at. I do not, as a rule, have to do very much to bring them there. That is the most lawyer answer I've ever heard from a man who is not a lawyer. I warned you. You did. She picked up her water again. She looked around the restaurant. A man at the bar had earlier glanced over at their table twice and then stopped glancing. A couple 2 tables over had been laughing loudly when she walked in and were now, she realized, speaking in lower voices. A woman near the kitchen door, dressed well but not like a guest, had her back to the dining room and a small earpiece in her left ear that Maya had not noticed on the way in and was noticing now. How many of these people work for you? Maya said. 3. In the restaurant. Yes. Right now. Yes. Why? Because I had a dinner with a woman I did not know, in a city where I have enemies, and it would be bad professional practice of me not to have had people in the room before she walked in. Maya was quiet for a second. You were worried about me, she said. I was worried for you. Is there a difference? A large one. The food came. Maya had stopped being hungry 2 minutes into the conversation and was, now, annoyed with herself for ordering the lamb because she was going to have to eat it. She cut a piece. She ate it. It was, to her irritation, exactly as good as he had said it would be. Question 2, she said. She did not look up from her plate. Why me? I don't know yet. That's not an answer. It's the most honest answer I have. She looked up. His eyes were not soft. They were not hard either. They were the eyes of a man who had been asked a question he had asked himself several times in the last week and had not been able to resolve. I read your message, he said. I should have deleted it. I thought about deleting it. My first instinct was to delete it, because a man in my position does not involve himself in the accidents of other people's lives. They are nearly always more complicated than they look, and the complications do not improve upon contact with me. So why didn't you delete it? Because you said you had wasted 3 years on a coward. He paused. And I have spent a long time around men like that. I know the shape of them. I know what they do to a woman who has just caught them. I know the story they will tell her. I know the version she will repeat back to herself, out of shame, a year later, where it's her fault somehow. And it was 9 o'clock at night, and you were writing the message as if you were running out of time, and I thought, if nobody else is in that woman's corner tonight, I can be in it for 20 minutes. And the 20 minutes turned into 8 days. Yes. That's a long 20 minutes. It is. She cut another piece of lamb. She did not eat it. She moved it around on the plate. I want to tell you something, she said. Go ahead. I'm not going to be somebody's project. Daniel, I let him make me a project. He liked women who needed fixing. I let him fix me. I let him make me small so he could feel big. I'm not doing that again. Not with him. Not with anybody. Okay, if this, whatever this is you wanting to rescue a girl from a bad breakup, you need to tell me now, and I will eat this lamb, and I will thank you for dinner, and I will go home, and we will never do this again. Victor set his fork down. I do not want to rescue you, he said. Good. I would also, he said, like to be honest about a second thing. Please. You don't need rescuing. You're angry, and you are hurt, and you were last week, in a state where someone with worse motives than mine could have done you real harm. But you walked home, you locked the door, you ate the toast, you told him to leave, and when he tried to stand over you, you didn't get smaller. You're not a woman who needs saving, Maya. You're a woman who's about to learn, probably for the first time in her life, that nobody was ever going to save her, because she was never the one in trouble. He was. She stared at him. She stared at him for a long enough time that the waiter who had been approaching with a water pitcher changed course. "That," she said, finally, "is the strangest compliment anyone has ever given me." "Is it a compliment?" "I'm choosing to hear it as one." "Then it's one." She laughed again. It was a better laugh this time. It almost sounded like her own. They ate. They talked about smaller things. The building she lived in, the way the radiator banged at 3 in the morning, the diner on 5th and Morrow, where she had sat the day after the message. He knew the diner. He had been there once, 15 years ago, when he had first come to Hartwell City with nothing in his pockets but a bus ticket and a number for a man who had told him he could get him work. "What kind of work?" Maya said. "Not the good kind. You don't do that anymore. I do different kinds of not good work, which I tell myself is better." "Is it?" "Some days." The plates were cleared. Coffee came. Victor took his black. Maya put 2 sugars in hers and stirred them in very slowly, because her stomach was doing something she couldn't name. "I want to ask you the hard question now," she said. "Go." "Am I in danger?" He didn't answer right away. He took a sip of coffee. He set it down. He looked at her across the small candle in the middle of the table, and his pale eyes in the candlelight were the warmest she had seen them all night, and the coldest. "Not tonight," he said. "That's not a no." "No," he said, "it isn't." Maya took a slow breath in and a slower one out. "Explain," she said. "If you walk away from this table tonight," Victor said, "and you never speak to me again, you will be in exactly the amount of danger you were in before you sent that text. Which is to say, almost none, except from a man named Daniel Vance who will try, for a few weeks or a few months, to manipulate you back into his life and will eventually fail. That is the worst thing that will happen to you. That is a manageable danger, and you are equipped for it. And if I don't walk away, if you don't walk away," he said, "then over time, not tonight, not this week, maybe not this year, you become a person who is known to be connected to me. People who are connected to me are sometimes targeted by people who do not like me, who would like to use them as leverage, or as a warning, or as a way of hurting me that they cannot hurt me any other way. I do everything I can to prevent that. I am very good at preventing it, but I am not perfect. And it would be a lie for me to sit across from you and pretend that my life is a safe one to stand next to." She stared at him. "You're warning me off," she said. "I'm telling you what I'd want to know if I were you." "And what do you want?" "I want you to know exactly what you'd be walking into, so that if you decide to walk into it, it's a decision. And if I decide not to, then I'll have the car take you home. And I'll delete the thread like I promised, and you will not have to think about me again." Maya looked down into her coffee. She thought about her apartment, the radiator, the empty spot on the couch where Daniel's jacket used to be, which Erin had boxed and taken to her own place so Maya wouldn't have to look at it. She thought about her mother's voicemail, which she still hadn't listened to because her mother, she knew, would tell her to get back together with Daniel, because her mother's theory of men was that you endured them. She thought about the girl in the bathroom mirror 3 years ago, putting on lipstick for her first date with a man who had seemed, then, like the most reasonable person she had ever met. She thought, "I have been careful my whole life, and careful still got me here." She looked up. "I'm not deciding tonight," she said. "Okay, I don't want to make a decision about my life over a plate of lamb with a man I've known for 8 days. Sensible. I thought we agreed sensible got me nothing. I think tonight is a good night to try it again." She almost laughed. Almost. "But I'm not done with this," she said. "With you. With whatever this is. I want to keep talking. I want to keep asking questions. And when I know more, I'll tell you what I decide. That's all I'd ask. And in the meantime," Maya said, "no cars." "No cars? When you want to see me, you ask. Like a regular person. You don't send a driver and a heated blanket. You text me and I say yes or no, and if I say yes, we meet somewhere I already know. And you don't watch my office from across the street anymore. Understood. I mean it. I know you do. And one more thing. Yes, you don't ever do anything on my behalf without telling me. Not to Daniel, not to anyone. Whatever you do, when someone annoys you, I don't want any of it done for me without me asking. Do you understand me? He was quiet for a second. I understand what you're asking, he said, and I'll do my best. That's not the same as yes. No, he said. It isn't. And I won't lie to you. If I see someone put a hand on you, Maya, I'm not going to stand across the street and watch. I will try, always, to tell you first. But I want you to know what I am before you ask me for a promise I might not be able to keep. Maya was quiet. Part of her. The sensible part. The part that had made the budget for 3 years and remembered Daniel's mother's birthday. Wanted to stand up and walk out. The other part, the part that had sat on a kitchen floor eating burnt toast while a stranger told her to lock her door, did not stand up. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay. For now. He nodded once. The waiter came. Victor paid the bill without Maya seeing it, which she noticed and which she decided tonight not to fight about. He helped her into her coat. He walked her out. The driver was at the curb with the back door already open. A light rain had started, thin and silver in the street lamps. I'll walk home, Maya said. It's a mile. I know. It's raining. I know that too. He looked at her for a second. Then he nodded to the driver, and the driver closed the back door and got into the front seat and pulled away, empty. Walk with me then, Victor said. To my apartment? To the corner of Ainsley and 4th. There's a coffee place there that stays open late. You can go the rest of the way on your own. I'd just like the first 10 minutes. She thought about saying no. She said, okay. They walked. He did not put a hand on her back this time. He did not, in fact, touch her at all. He walked beside her, half a step back, in the way a man walks when he is letting a woman set the pace. His hands were in his pockets. The rain was beating on the shoulders of his coat. Can I ask you something personal? She said. Yes. Have you done this before? Done what? Dinner. With a woman. After. Like this. He did not answer for most of a block. No, he said. That's hard to believe. Why? Because you're... She gestured vaguely at him. You. There's got to be a line. There is a line, he said. I don't stand in it. Why not? Because when a man lives the life I live, there are 2 kinds of women who stand in that line. The first kind knows what I do and wants it. Wants what it buys, wants what it means. Those women I can pick out in a room in 6 seconds, and I do not like them, and they do not like me, really. And we understand each other. And the second kind. The second kind, he said, does not know what I do, and I would have to lie to her to keep her, and I do not want to lie to anyone for long enough to build something on the lie. So I don't. So you're alone. I'm alone. By choice. Mostly. And now, he glanced at her, sideways, without turning his head. Now, he said, a woman sent me a message by accident, and she already knows the worst of what I am, because I told her on the second night, and she is still walking next to me in the rain, so I don't know what now is yet. I'm not pretending to know. She looked at him. Victor? Yes. I'm not the second kind. I know. And I'm not the first kind either. I know that too. That's the problem. The problem? If you were either of them, I'd know what to do. They had reached the corner. The coffee place was on the far side of the intersection, its windows fogged, a hand-lettered sign on the door. Maya stopped under the awning of a closed florist's. The rain was harder now. Thank you for dinner, she said. Thank you for coming. I'll text you. When? I don't know yet. Okay. She turned to go. She took 2 steps, then she turned back. Victor. Yes. That photo. Brielle's photo. The one I saw. Yes. It isn't up anymore. I looked today. He was quiet. Did you do something about that? She said. He did not answer at once. A friend of mine spoke to Brielle, he said finally. and told her that continuing to post photographs of a man who was, as of last week, engaged to another woman could create legal problems for her that she did not want. She agreed. The photograph came down. "You told me you wouldn't do anything for me without asking. I told you I would try, and I told you I might fail. This was before our conversation tonight. I did it on the third day." "Why?" "Because I did not want you to open your phone and see it by accident. You had already seen it once. I did not want you to see it twice." She looked at him. Standing in the rain in his black coat, his hands in his pockets, his face perfectly still, his pale eyes steady on hers. "You're going to be a problem," she said. "Probably." "Good night, Victor." "Good night, Maya." She walked. She did not look back. She did not need to. She could feel behind her that he did not move from the corner until she had turned out of sight. She did not text him the next day, or the day after that. She went to work. She went to the grocery store. She listened, finally, to her mother's voicemail, and it was exactly what she had expected it to be. And she cried for about 7 minutes in her car in the parking lot of a drugstore, and then she stopped crying, because crying about her mother was a thing she had done enough of in her life, and she was tired of doing it. On the third day, Daniel showed up at her office. He was in the lobby when she came down. He had a bouquet of grocery store flowers in one hand and what she recognized with a sick small jolt as the same box her ring, the ring that was never hers, the ring that his mother had told her mother about, had been returned in. He was holding it like a prop. He had not opened it. "Maya," he said, loud enough that the security guard at the desk looked up. "Babe, please, just 5 minutes." "No," she said. She kept walking. "Maya," I said no. "I drove across town. You drove 5 blocks. Baby, please, I've been a wreck. I haven't slept. Just give me 5 minutes. He stepped in front of her. He did not mean it as a threat. Daniel never did anything as a threat. Daniel did everything with a smile and a soft voice and a set of hands that knew exactly how to look like they were only asking. His hand closed around her upper arm. Not hard enough to bruise, just firm enough to stop her from walking past him. "Just 5 minutes, he said. And here's the thing Maya would remember about that moment for the rest of her life, in the exact order it happened. First, she froze, because her body knew this hand. This was the hand that had held hers at Lake Arwen. This was the hand that had made her coffee on Sunday mornings. This was the hand that had once gently turned her face toward his at a red light and said, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me. You know that, right?" Second, she heard herself say, "Let go of me." Third, Daniel said, "Just listen." Fourth, someone who was not Maya and was not Daniel and was not the security guard said, very quietly, from somewhere close behind Daniel's left shoulder, she said, "Let go." Daniel turned his head. Maya saw over Daniel's shoulder a man she did not know, mid-30s, built like a person who did not need to go to the gym because life was his gym. Plain dark suit, no tie, a small earpiece in his left ear, empty hands held loose at his sides. "Who the hell are you?" Daniel said. "I work for a friend of Miss Bennett's," the man said. His voice did not change. "She asked you to let go of her arm. I am asking you to let go of her arm. I'd like for us all to leave this building as friends." Daniel's grip tightened for 1 second, and then he let go. He let go, Maya noticed. The way a man lets go of something he has decided, in his head, he was going to let go of anyway, so as not to have been made to let go. "I wasn't going to hurt her," Daniel said. "I know," the man said, pleasantly. "I want to keep it that way." "Who sent you?" "Miss Bennett has some people looking out for her. That's all. Nothing else is going on here. Why don't you take a step back, and I'll walk Miss Bennett to her car." "She doesn't drive." "I'll walk her to a cab then." Daniel looked at Maya, and in his face she saw, for the first time in 3 years, an expression that she had never seen there before. It was not love, it was not guilt, it was not even anger. It was fear. It was the face of a man who had just found out that the woman he had been comfortable bullying for 3 years had somehow, in the weeks since he had last seen her, become a woman he could not bully anymore. And he did not understand how, and the not understanding scared him more than the fact. He stepped back. "Maya," he said. Babe, who is this guy? She did not answer him. She walked around him. She walked past him. The man in the dark suit fell in beside her without touching her, without crowding her, matching her stride. They crossed the lobby. The security guard at the desk did not look up this time. She noticed that too. The security guard knew, somehow, not to look up. Outside, a black car was at the curb. Not the same car from Tuesday. A smaller, less visible one. The man in the suit opened the back door for her. Miss Bennett? I didn't ask for this, Maya said. I told him no cars unless I asked. I understand, ma'am. Mr. Hale is aware of the conversation. He asked me to be in the building this morning as a precaution. He instructed me not to interfere unless a hand was put on you. A hand was put on you. I interfered. I'll be happy to step aside now if you'd like to take a cab. The car is only if you want it. Maya looked back at the office lobby. Through the glass, she could see Daniel still standing where she had left him. The bouquet was hanging loose from his hand. The ring box was still in the other one. He looked from here small. Not the man who had loomed over her in their bedroom a week ago. A man. Just a man. Flowers in one hand and a lie in the other, and no power over her at all. Suddenly, none. Take me home, she said. Yes, ma'am. She got in the car. She took her phone out of her bag. Her hand was steady. She was surprised, distantly, by how steady it was. You had someone in my lobby, she typed. The answer came within a minute. Victor. Yes. I told you no. Victor. I know, you did it anyway. Victor. Yes. A pause. She watched the 3 dots. Victor. I can't apologize for that one, Maya. He grabbed your arm. If my man hadn't been there, it would have been a security guard, and the security guard would not have been as polite. I will apologize for not telling you first. I will not apologize for the fact of him. If that's a line for you, it's a line, and I'll understand. Maya looked at the screen for a long time. Outside the car window, Hartwell City slid past. The park by the river. The little bridge where she had stood in a wet coat and told him, yes, 8 o'clock, Tuesday. The coffee place on the corner of Ainsley and 4th, where she had walked away from him 3 nights before. She typed, it's not a line. Yet. Victor. Yet? Yet. But you're on probation. Victor. Understood. She almost put the phone away. Instead, she typed one more thing. He grabbed my arm, Victor, a longer pause than usual. Victor. I know. I saw the footage from the lobby camera 90 seconds after it happened. I haven't watched it again. Once was enough. What are you going to do? Victor. Nothing you haven't asked me to do. Victor. Victor. Yes. Don't lie to me. Victor. I'm not lying to you. I'm telling you that whatever I do, if I do anything, I will tell you before I do it. And if you say no, I will not do it. That's the deal we made Tuesday. I'm keeping it. Even if I say no and you think I'm wrong. Victor. Even then. You promise. A long, long pause. Victor. I promise. She sat in the back of the car with the phone warm in her hand, and she watched her city go by, and she thought very clearly about the fact that a week ago she had been a woman who believed a man when he told her a lipstick stain was his cousin's baby. She was not that woman anymore. She didn't know, yet, what woman she was instead. But for the first time since a photograph had appeared on a stranger's profile and shattered her evening into 1,000 wet pieces on a Hartwell City sidewalk, Maya Bennett was not afraid of finding out. 3 days after the lobby, Victor called her for the first time. Maya was washing a plate in her kitchen when the phone buzzed on the counter, and she almost dropped the dish when she saw the name. They had been texting every day, sometimes twice, sometimes once, always in the same careful rhythm. A question, an answer, a thing he saw, a thing she noticed. Small sentences sent between bigger silences. She had gotten used to him on a screen. She had not somehow gotten ready to hear him on a phone. She wiped her hands on a towel and picked up. Hello. Maya. His voice was lower in real life than she had remembered from dinner. Quieter. Like he was speaking in a room where other people might be sleeping. Am I catching you at a bad time? I'm washing a plate. You eat a lot of food alone. I didn't used to. There was a pause. Not awkward. Just a pause. I have to ask you something, he said, and I'm not going to ask it in a text, because I don't want you to decide in 3 seconds. Okay. I have a thing tomorrow night. A dinner. Not like Tuesday. It's at my house. There will be 11 other people. They are not friends. They are people I do business with. A man named Konstantin Rausch is going to be there. He is someone I'm trying to read. He is someone I have been trying to read for about 6 months without being able to. And you want me to come. I want you to come. Why? Because Rausch is a man who does not understand how to speak to a woman he has not decided in advance is either a wife, a mistress, or an assistant. You are none of those things. He will not know what to do with you. And when a man like Rausch does not know what to do, he shows me things he would not show me otherwise. Maya leaned against the counter. You want to use me? Yes. For work? Yes. That's not a date, Victor. I know it isn't. You're aware this is the opposite of how a person asks a woman to dinner at his house. I'm very aware. She actually laughed. She put a hand over her face. You are, she said, the worst. I know. Why are you telling me? Because I told you I wouldn't lie to you. I could have invited you to dinner like a normal man. I could have said, I'd like you to see where I live. I'd like you to meet some people. I could have dressed it up. And then I would have stood in my own house tomorrow night pretending a thing I wasn't doing, and you would have seen at some point in the evening that the thing I wasn't doing was the thing I was doing, and you would never have trusted me again. Maya looked at the plate in the sink. Okay, she said. Okay, what? Okay, I'll come, because at least you were honest enough to tell me. Most men wouldn't have. Most men are cowards. Yes, Maya said. I know. I dated one. The house was not in the city. The driver, was the same quiet man with the gray beard from Tuesday, whose name, she had learned, was Tomas. Took her north out of Hartwell, across the Cressmore Bridge, through a town called Ridge Hollow that smelled like wood smoke and dead leaves, and then off the main road onto a smaller one, and then off the smaller one onto a drive that was gated and long and lined on both sides by trees that had been there for 100 years. The house at the end of the drive was not what she had expected. She had expected glass and steel. She had expected a monument. What she got was a big old stone house, 2 stories, a slate roof, ivy on one wing, warm yellow light in most of the windows. It looked like the kind of house a doctor in a novel retired to. It looked like a place where a person could lose an afternoon reading in a chair. The only thing that gave it away was the man at the edge of the drive with a coat that did not quite hide the shape of what he was wearing under it. And the man at the other edge of the drive. And the third man, whom she did not see at first, standing perfectly still on the second-floor balcony of the west wing with his face turned toward the road. Tomas pulled up. He did not get out this time. The front door of the house opened before she had finished unbuckling. Victor came out. He was in a dark suit again. No tie. His sleeves were not rolled. His hair was a little damp, as if he had come out of a shower not long before. He came down the steps at an unhurried walk and opened her door himself, and she thought he told Tomas not to. Maya? Victor? He offered her his hand. She took it. She let him help her out of the car, which she had not needed help doing, and she held on to his hand for 1 beat longer than she had intended to, because her legs were doing a thing she had not asked them to do, and she did not want to fall down on gravel in front of 3 men in bad coats. You're nervous, he said. I am nervous. You don't have to be. Victor. Yes. Do not tell a woman not to be nervous when she is about to walk into a house full of strangers as bait. It isn't going to work. A very small thing happened at his mouth. The thing from Tuesday. The almost smile. Understood, he said. He let her in. The inside of the house matched the outside, which was the first surprise. Old rugs. Old wood. Books. A lot of books. Not books as decoration. Books as furniture. Books as evidence. Books in stacks on side tables with bookmarks in them. A fireplace at the end of the entry hall, lit, with a low fire in it that had burned down to coals. The smell of something roasting. The sound of voices from a room off to the right, men's voices mostly, and a laugh, not a warm one, from a woman. Before we go in, Victor said, stopping her at the foot of the staircase. Yes. 3 things. Go. 1. There will be a man in a dark green jacket, silver hair, heavy accent. That's Rausch. You will not shake his hand. He will not offer it. He does not shake hands with women he has not done business with. Do not take it personally. Okay. 2. The woman who laughs a lot. Short, red lipstick. Dress that's too good for the room. That is a woman named Yelena Varga. She works for a man I have had to be careful about for 8 years. She's going to be very kind to you. She's going to ask you questions. She is going to seem interested. She is not. Answer her questions as if you were speaking to a stranger at a bus stop. Nothing more, nothing less. She cannot hurt you tonight, but she will remember everything you say, and she will repeat it to a man I would rather not have any details about you. Maya swallowed. 3. 3? If I touch your back, that means we're moving. If I touch your wrist, that means I need you to follow me somewhere and not ask why until we're there. If I don't touch you at all, you do whatever you want. I am not going to hover. I am not going to stand behind you. Tonight, you are not my date. You are a friend of mine who happens to be in the house. You talk to whoever you want. You drink whatever you want. And if at any point you want to leave, you find me and we leave. Together, no matter what room I'm in. Maya looked up at him. You've done this before. Not with you. With who? Myself. Alone. Many times. And tonight is different. How? He considered her. Tonight, he said, there is someone in this house I do not want harmed. She did not answer. She could not exactly. Her mouth was dry. He lifted his hand briefly and brushed the knuckles of one finger against the back of hers. It was not a hold. It was a touch that lasted the length of a breath, and then his hand was at his side again. Ready, he said. No. Good. Let's go. He walked her in. Rausch was exactly as advertised. Silver hair, dark green jacket, a face like a map that had been folded and unfolded too many times. He was standing by the fireplace in the big room with a short glass in his hand, and when Victor and Maya came in, he did not turn toward them all at once. He turned in pieces, the eyes first, then the head, then finally the body. He did not offer his hand. He did what Victor had said he would do. He nodded, just enough to be polite, just little enough to be a reminder. Mr. Hale, he said, thank you for the invitation. Mr. Rausch, you know Inez, I don't think you've met my friend Miss Bennett. I have not had the pleasure, Rausch said, to the air somewhere near Maya's left ear, not to her face. It's nice to meet you, Maya said. He nodded again. He was already looking back at Victor. She had been dismissed. Victor had told her it would happen, and she had believed him, and it was still worse, somehow, to be in the room for it than to have been warned about it. The room was smaller than the foyer, but taller, with a ceiling that went up 2 stories and a row of tall windows looking out onto a dark garden. 10 or 11 people, the way Victor had said. A tall, thin man in his 60s who was talking quietly to a younger man in a navy suit, a woman in a beige dress with her back to the door, 2 men by the drinks table, neither of them drinking, and the woman with the laugh. Yelena Varga saw Maya within 12 seconds of her walking in. A new face, she said, coming across the room like she had been waiting for her all night. She had, Maya realized, probably been standing exactly where she could see the door, because women like Yelena did not miss arrivals. Her dress was emerald green, and it fit her the way money fits women who have had money for a long time. Her lipstick was the color of old wine. She put a warm, narrow hand on Maya's forearm before Maya had processed her close enough to step back. I'm Yelena, she said. I am the only person here tonight who is going to remember your name in the morning. Tell me everything. Maya Bennett. Maya. Beautiful. And you are, She smiled. You are a friend of our host's. I am a friend of Victor's, yes. How did you meet? Maya had rehearsed this in the car. She had very carefully thought about what she would say. On a work project, she said. Ah. Nothing interesting. Everything with Mr. Hale is interesting, Yelena said, and laughed a little. The laugh Victor had warned her about, the one that was not warm. And her hand did not leave Maya's forearm yet. What kind of work do you do? Communications. For a firm. Yes. Which one? A small one. Yelena's eyes, which were a very pale brown, stayed on hers. A small one, she said. How modest you are. I don't think I am, Maya said, and she smiled in a way that surprised her because the smile came out more solid than she felt. I just don't think my job is what we should talk about at a party. No, Yelena said. Of course not. Tell me where you're from. Here. Hartwell. And your family? Also here. And how long have you been seeing him? Maya did not blink. I'm not sure what you mean, she said pleasantly. Come now. We work on things. Sometimes we have dinner. You'll have to ask him about the rest. Yelena's hand finally left her arm. Careful, Yelena said softly, still smiling. You're very good at this. Be a little less good. It will frighten the men. And she moved off. Maya did not look at Victor. She could feel across the room that he was not looking at her either, which was his way of watching, she had learned. He looked most carefully at people when his eyes were somewhere else. She went to the drinks table. She picked up a glass of wine she did not intend to drink. The man in the navy suit drifted near her and said something polite about the weather, and she said something polite back, and he drifted off. The woman in the beige dress turned around at some point, saw her, smiled with her mouth but not her eyes, and introduced herself as somebody's wife. Maya forgot the name in 6 seconds, which Yelena would have been proud of. They went in to dinner at 9. The dining room was long and dim and smelled like rosemary and smoke. The table seated 12. Victor sat at the head. Maya was not next to him. She was 3 seats down on his left, across from a man she had not been introduced to, beside an older woman who turned out to be Rausch's wife, and who did not say a single word to her across all 3 courses. Rausch sat at Victor's right. Maya watched, without watching, the way she had been taught by a life of family dinners with people who fought quietly. She ate the soup. She ate the fish. She listened to the conversations around her without seeming to listen, and she learned in scraps and edges that a shipment was being discussed, that something had gone wrong at a port called Calaris, that a man whose name nobody said directly had done something that had cost another man whose name also was not said a great deal of money, and that Rausch was angry about it in the specific way of a man who has not decided yet whose fault it is. If the cargo was mishandled on our side, Rausch said at one point to Victor, I will know by Thursday. And if it was not, then we will have a different conversation. With whom? Rausch smiled for the first time all night. With the men who were supposed to be watching it, he said. Maya took a sip of water. She felt Victor's eyes on her for 1/2 of 1 second, and then they were gone. Dessert came. Then coffee. Then brandy for the men, which Maya declined, and a thin, sweet wine for the women, which Rausch's wife drank in a single silent pull. It was during the brandy that the thing happened. She had stood up to use the bathroom because she needed 3 minutes away from the table, and Victor had not touched her wrist, which meant he had nothing to tell her. She had walked down the hall to the powder room, and she had stood in front of the mirror with her hands on the edge of the sink, and she had told herself, out loud, in the quiet, You are okay. You are okay. You are okay. She had come out, and at the end of the hall, by the front door, 2 men she had not seen before were standing close to a 3rd man she had not seen before. And the 3rd man was holding the lapel of his own jacket in his own hand, as if he had just been touched there by someone who had since let go. And the 2 men were speaking to him in a foreign language that Maya did not know, in the low, fast voices of people who were not asking. The 3rd man saw her. His face did a thing. One of the other men turned his head. Ma'am, he said in English, very pleasantly. The restroom is around the corner, if you've gotten turned around. I just came from it. Then perhaps you'd like to return to the dining room. It was not a question. She went back to the dining room. She sat down. Her hands were shaking under the tablecloth. She put them in her lap. She picked up her water. She drank it. She put it down. Victor, across and up the table, did not look at her. He said to Rausch, in a voice that was the same voice he had used all night, Will you excuse me for a moment? Of course. Victor got up. He left the room. He was gone for 4 minutes. When he came back, he sat down, and he picked up his brandy, and he took a sip, and he said to Rausch, Where were we? Thursday. Thursday, yes. I'll have my answer by Thursday as well. Good. The dinner ended 20 minutes later. The guests left in an order that Maya did not, at the time, understand, and only later realized had been choreographed. Rausch first, with his wife. Then the man in the navy suit. Then Yelena, who kissed the air on both sides of Maya's face before leaving and said, "We will speak again, darling," in a tone that was not exactly a threat, but was exactly a promise. When the last car had pulled out of the drive, Victor closed the front door and leaned his back against it and let out a breath that was not quite a sigh and not quite a laugh. "Come here," he said. Maya walked over. He did not touch her. He looked at her. "You did that," he said. "Very well." "What did I do?" "You frightened Yelena Varga." "I did not." "You did. You answered 3 questions in a row without giving her anything. She did not know what to do with you. She told me to be less good at it." "She would. She thinks you're competition." "For what?" "For nothing, Maya. For a job she has that she thinks every beautiful woman in every room she enters is about to take from her." "She's beautiful herself." "She is. She has also not slept well in a long time." Maya looked down. "There were men," she said, "in the hallway. I saw them when I came out of the bathroom." "I know." "Who were they?" Victor was quiet for a second. "One of them was an employee of mine, Basim," he said. "2 of them were an employee of Rausch's and an employee of a man whose business partner was at dinner tonight. They were having a conversation that was not on the agenda." "What were they talking about?" "Something that is not yours to worry about." "Victor." "Maya. If I am going to keep sitting in your house, I want to know when I am walking past things that matter." He studied her for a long moment. "Calories?" he said finally. "You heard Rausch say it at dinner." "Yes." "A shipment that was supposed to arrive at a port." "There did not arrive at that port. It arrived somewhere else instead. The man whose shipment it was, who was not at dinner tonight, believes he knows who moved it. The men in the hall were arguing about whether they were allowed to say so in this house. Out of respect." "Respect for you?" "Yes." Because they are guests under my roof, and under my roof they do not start fires. It is one of the few pieces of good manners that have survived into this business. And the man who moved the shipment is a problem for another week. For you. For everybody." Maya stared at him. "Victor," she said. "Yes. Am I safe in this house?" He did not answer right away. "Tonight?" he said. "Yes." "Any night you are in this house?" "Yes." "There is no night, ever, that you will be in this house and be less safe than you are in your own apartment. I will stake the house on that." "And out of the house." He looked at her. "Less safe than you were last week," he said. "Because of tonight. Because Yelena Varga now knows your face. Which means, by Sunday, 2 or 3 other people will know your face. None of them will act on it. Most of them will file you away. But one of them, eventually, will remember." Maya closed her eyes. "You asked me here knowing that. I asked you here knowing that, and I told you in advance that I was asking you here to help me. And I told you that by standing next to me you became, over time, a person who could be targeted. I told you all of that on Tuesday. I am not telling you anything now that I did not tell you then." "I know," Maya said. "I know. I'm not angry at you." "Who are you angry at?" "Myself." "For what?" "For coming." He was quiet. "I can have Tomas drive you home now," he said, "and I can have him drive you home every night you want to be driven home for as long as you are willing to let me send him. I can also put you on a plane on Monday to any city you want. You say the name. It's done. No one will find you. I don't mean that dramatically. I mean logistically. I can make a woman named Maya Bennett disappear from Hartwell City by Wednesday and reappear in any city on Earth with a new job and a new apartment by Friday, and none of the people you are worried about will ever know where you went. It is not difficult. It is, in fact, one of the things I do." She stared at him. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know it's an option. You would—" "What? Help me leave you?" "Yes. Tonight, if you asked. Why?" "Because I told you I would not lie to you, and I told you I would tell you the truth about what you were walking into, and I told you that whatever you decided I would live with. You decided on Tuesday to keep asking questions. You did not decide on Tuesday to stay. Tonight is the first night you have seen what the answer actually looks like. You are allowed to change your mind." Maya looked at him. She looked at him for a long time. He was standing in the hallway of his own enormous house with his hands loose at his sides, his coat off, his collar open by one button, and his pale eyes tired in a way she had not seen them be before. And she thought, he has done this alone. He has done all of this alone. She thought, he is not asking me to stay. He is giving me a door. And because he was giving her a door, she did not walk through it. I'm not leaving tonight, she said. Okay. I'm not saying I'll stay for whatever you want me to stay for. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I am not leaving tonight. Okay. I want to go home. I'll have Tomas bring the car around. No. No? Not yet. Sit with me first. He looked at her. Then he walked her down the hall. Not to the big room with the fireplace where the guests had been. Another room, smaller, a study. 2 chairs by a window, 1 lamp on, nothing else on. He sat in one chair, she sat in the other. Between them, on a small table, was a glass of water he poured from a carafe without asking. He handed it to her. She drank half of it. Talk to me about something that is not tonight, she said. What? Anything. I don't care. Tell me. Tell me about a book on one of these shelves. Tell me about the first apartment you ever lived in. Tell me something that isn't men in hallways. He thought for a moment. When I first came to Hartwell, he said, I lived in a room above a laundromat on Darien Street. The landlady was a woman named Mrs. Oloyede, and she was 71 years old, and she believed I was going to be a doctor. I was not going to be a doctor. I had told her I was going to be a doctor because I needed her to rent me the room, and she had a rule about only renting to men who were going to be doctors. She was a widow. Her husband had been a doctor. She missed him. Did she find out you weren't going to be a doctor? Yes. When? After a year. When a man came up the stairs one night to deliver a message to me, and she heard him on the stairs, and she came out of her apartment with a cricket bat and hit him in the shoulder with it. Maya's mouth opened. She hit him. She hit him. And then she turned to me on the landing and she said, You are not a doctor. And I said, No, Mrs. Oloyede, I am not. And she said, I thought not. And she went back into her apartment. And the man left. The shoulder was fine. Did she kick you out? No. Why not? Because she said, if you are not going to be a doctor, you will need somewhere cheap to live. Maya laughed. It was the first real laugh she had had since Rausch had nodded past her face at the fireplace, and it came out of her shaking and then steadier, and she put her hand over her mouth and shook her head. You are making this up, she said. I am not. Mrs. Oloyede. Mrs. Oloyede. Is she still alive? She died 4 years ago. I bought her the building 2 years before she died. She thought a nephew had bought it. She was very pleased with the nephew. She wrote him Christmas cards that I read. Maya looked at him. Victor, she said. Yes. That is the saddest, nicest story I have ever heard in my life. It is a story. Do you have more? A few. Tell me another one. He did. He told her one about a man who had tried to rob a corner store he was in when he was 19, and how he had not done anything because the store owner had a shotgun under the counter, and he had known that, and the robber had not known that, and Victor had simply stood by the magazine rack and waited, because it was not his robbery. He told her about the first suit he had ever owned, which had been bought at a second-hand shop and had been a size too large, and the woman who had sold it to him had stayed an extra hour after her shift to take in the shoulders for free, because she did not want him to start his first real job looking like a boy. He told her 4 stories before she got up. Okay, Maya said. Tomas now. Tomas now. At the door, he did not kiss her. He did not try. He stood with his hands in his pockets on the top step of his big stone house, and he watched her go down to the car, and she turned at the bottom of the steps, and she looked back at him. Victor. Yes. I'm not sorry I came. I'm glad you're not. I might be sorry tomorrow. That's allowed. I'll text you. Okay. She got in the car. Tomas closed the door. The house receded down the long drive, yellow-windowed and stone-faced, and watched from 3 places she could see, and one, she suspected, she couldn't. The gate opened for them. The gate closed behind them. They were on the small road, and then the larger one, and then the bridge, and then the city, and Maya sat in the back seat with her coat folded on her lap and thought about a 71-year-old woman named Mrs. Oloyede hitting a man with a cricket bat on a staircase above a laundromat, and she thought about the way Victor had said the woman's name, and she thought that the man she had just had dinner with was two men, completely, and he had shown her both, tonight, on purpose, and she did not know yet which of the two she was keeping, only that she was keeping one of them. She got back to her apartment at 12:40. She put her keys in the dish. She went to the bathroom. She washed her face. She stood in front of the mirror with water dripping off her chin, and she looked at her own reflection, and she looked tired. She looked older than she had a month ago. She looked like a woman who had sat at a table with people who had done things she would never know the full shape of. She looked also like a woman who had not, tonight, been the smallest person in any room she had been in. She typed one text before she turned out the light. Home. The reply came in under a minute. Victor, lock the door. Already did. Victor. Good night, Maya. Good night, Victor. She put the phone face down on the nightstand. She turned off the lamp. She lay in the dark for a long time, not sleeping, listening to the radiator bang in the empty apartment, and she thought about Daniel briefly and realized, with a small clean shock, that she had not thought about him once all day until that moment. And somewhere on the other side of Hartwell City, in a stone house with yellow windows, a man who had spent 20 years not letting anyone inside a door was sitting in a small study by a cold carafe, looking at a chair that had 1 hour ago had a woman in it, and deciding, for the first time in those 20 years, that he was not going to send the next one away. The woman Yelena had warned about remembered Maya's face sooner than Victor had guessed. It was a Wednesday, 11 days after the dinner. Maya had spent those 11 days trying, with varying success, to live the kind of life she had lived before. She had gone to work. She had told her boss, who had noticed she was thinner, that she was fine. She had told her sister, who had noticed she was not sleeping, that she was working on it. She had even agreed to have coffee with her mother, which had gone the way coffees with her mother always went, which was to say, her mother had spent 40 minutes explaining why Daniel deserved a second chance, and Maya had spent 40 minutes not responding to any of it, and at the end her mother had said, "You're changing, Maya." And Maya had said, quietly, "I hope so." And her mother had paid for the coffee without saying goodbye. Victor had not come to Hartwell in that time. He had been in 2 cities that she did not know, and then a 3rd city that he had not named, and he had texted her every day, sometimes a sentence, sometimes a question, once a photograph of a bookshop window in a place where the signs were in a language she could not read. "Thought of you," the caption had said. She had read it 6 times. She had not known what to say back. She had eventually written, "What made you think of me?" And the reply had come 3 hours later. Victor. The woman in the window was reading a book and frowning at it like she was going to fight the author. Maya had laughed in an elevator. She had been reading his messages in elevators a lot. On the Wednesday, she was coming out of a sandwich place on Merchant Street, 2 blocks from her office, and a woman in a camel-colored coat stepped into her path on the sidewalk and said, "Excuse me, Maya, isn't it?" Maya stopped. The woman was maybe 45, ash-blonde hair pinned at the back, very good coat, no bag. No bag was the thing Maya noticed first, because she was carrying a sandwich, and the woman was carrying nothing. "I'm sorry," Maya said. "Do I know you?" "No, we haven't met. My name is Alina. I'm a friend of Konstantin Rausch's." Maya did not react. She had learned at the dinner how to not react. "Okay," she said. "I was hoping I could buy you a coffee." "I have coffee. Tomorrow then, or the next day. 10 minutes. I promise." "I don't think so." Alina smiled. It was a very nice smile. It was the smile of a woman who had been hired at some point in her career on the strength of her ability to produce that smile on demand. "Maya," she said. "May I call you Maya?" "You already are, Maya." "I understand. I promise you, I am not going to ask you anything invasive. I am not going to ask you about Mr. Hale. I'm going to ask you about a photograph that was taken of you on 8th Street 3 nights ago. I'm going to ask you whether you noticed the man who took it, and I'm going to ask you if you would like someone to make sure no more photographs like it are taken." Maya's stomach dropped. She did not show it. She had gotten better at not showing it. "What photograph?" she said. "It's nothing graphic. You were walking. You were alone. It was taken from across the street. I can show it to you if you like. Alina produced a phone from a pocket Maya had not realized the coat had and turned the screen toward her. The photograph was real. It was taken at a distance through a gap in a line of cars, but it was clearly her. She was in her gray coat. She was on 8th Street. She was about 50 feet from her building. The timestamp on the image was 8:47 p.m., the previous Sunday, 3 days ago, which meant somebody had been standing across that street 3 days ago with a camera waiting for her to go home. Who took it? Maya said. A man who works, occasionally, for a man who is not a friend of Mr. Hale's. I want to be very careful here, Maya. I am not threatening you. I am the opposite of threatening you. I am telling you that a photograph exists. I am telling you that the person who ordered it does not want to harm you. He wants only to understand you. To understand what kind of woman Victor Hale has decided, very abruptly, to spend time with. He believes, I think wrongly, that you are a strategic decision on Mr. Hale's part. I have been asked to find out. Find out what? Whether you're a strategic decision or whether you are, as I suspect, an accident. A nice one, but an accident. Maya did not answer. Alina took a step back to be polite, to give her the sidewalk. Coffee, Alina said. Not today. But think about it. If you would rather not ever speak to me, I will respect that, and I will tell the man I work for what I already believe, which is that you are not a threat to him. He may or may not accept that. I am only one voice, but I am offering you, woman to woman, the chance to spend 10 minutes with me in a public place where I make sure he understands you are not someone his people need to be taking photographs of. That is the offer. Why? Maya said. Why what? Why are you being nice? Alina looked at her for a second, and for the first time there was something on her face that was not the smile. Because I was you, once, she said, and I did not have a woman tell me what I am telling you, and I would not wish that on anybody. Here. She took a card out of the coat pocket, a small plain card with only a phone number on it, no name, no company. When you're ready, Alina said, or if you decide never to be ready, either is fine. Have a good afternoon, Maya. She walked away. Maya stood on the sidewalk with the sandwich in one hand and the card in the other, and she did not move for a long time. She did not call Victor, not right away. She went back to her office. She ate half the sandwich at her desk without tasting it. She worked badly, for 2 hours. At 4:15, she took her coat and her bag and she walked down to the lobby, and she stood for a second at the glass doors looking out at Merchant Street. And she thought about the photograph, and she thought about the timestamp, and she thought about the fact that she had walked that piece of 8th Street 100 times in her life. And now some man had stood across from it with a lens, and she had not known. And that was the part that would not leave her chest. She called Victor from a taxi. He picked up on the second ring. Maya, a woman named Alina just stopped me on a sidewalk. There was a pause on his end that was not silence. It was the pause of a man who had been doing something and had stopped doing it. Alina Kreshtin. She didn't give me a last name. Ash blonde, tall, camel coat, speaks with almost no accent. Yes. What did she say to you? Hey, that there's a photograph of me from Sunday night, walking home, taken by a man who works for a man who isn't a friend of yours. Did she show you the photograph? Yes. Describe it. Gray coat, 8th Street, about 50 feet from my building, 8:47 p.m. Sunday. Sunday. I know the photograph. You... What? I have the photograph. I have had it since Monday morning. Go on. Maya closed her eyes. She told me, she said, that her employer thinks I am a strategic decision of yours, and she wants to prove to him that I am not. She offered me coffee. She gave me a card. I told her I'd think about it. I don't know what to do with this, Victor. Don't do anything with it. She has my face on a phone. I know. She stopped me on a sidewalk. I know. Victor. Maya, listen to me. Listen to me for a moment. Where are you? In a cab. Going home. Tell the cab to take you to my building, the one in the city. You have the address. I sent it to you last week with a door code. It's on Marchand between 9th and 10th. Tomas will meet you in the lobby. You're going to sit in my apartment for 2 hours. I'm going to be there by 8. You do not have to stay longer than you want to. I am not asking you to stay the night. I'm asking you to not be in your apartment tonight. You think she's going to... I think nothing is going to happen to you tonight. Nothing. I'm telling you that because I believe it. Alina does not work like that. The man who employs her does not work like that. Nothing is going to happen to you tonight. I'm asking you to come to my apartment anyway because you have had a bad afternoon and because I do not want you alone in a kitchen tonight eating toast. Maya laughed. It was a wet laugh. Okay, she said. Okay. Okay. She gave the cab driver the new address. She hung up. She sat with her phone in her lap and watched Hartwell City slide past, and she thought, for the 100th time in 3 weeks, about the fact that she had, by accident, pressed her thumb against the wrong contact in a message app, and that the shape of her life was different now, permanently, for that 1-inch slip. Victor's city apartment was on the top floor of a building she had walked past, probably 200 times without knowing what it was. Tomas was in the lobby, exactly as promised. He did not speak. He only nodded and got in the elevator with her and pressed a button that did not have a number on it, and the elevator went up and up and up. The apartment was quieter than the house had been, not smaller exactly. It was large, in the way apartments on top floors in Hartwell are always large, but emptier. Fewer books, fewer rugs. One wall entirely windows looking south across the city. A kitchen that had clearly been installed by someone who believed in kitchens, and then not used for years. A dining table with nothing on it. A couch. One lamp. Help yourself to anything, Miss Bennett, Tomas said at the door. I'll be downstairs. If you need me, there is a button under the kitchen counter next to the refrigerator. Left-hand side behind the toe kick. Press once for me. Thank you, Tomas. There is also, he said, a box on the counter. Mr. Hale asked me to put it there an hour ago. He left. Maya walked across the apartment. She set her bag down on the couch. She went to the counter. There was, indeed, a box. It was a plain white box with a piece of paper folded on top of it. She opened the paper. Maya. I didn't know if you'd come. I hoped. The box is a sweater because your coat is not warm enough for this week, and because I remembered that you said on the bridge that you never buy anything for yourself. It is not expensive. It is not a gesture. It is a sweater. There is also tea in the cabinet next to the stove, second shelf in the red tin. It is good tea. I would like you to drink some. V. Maya sat down on one of the counter stools. She put her hands over her face. And then finally, for the first time since the sidewalk, she cried, not for the photograph, not for Alina. Not for the fact that there was, somewhere in Hartwell City, a man she did not know who had paid another man to point a camera at her. She cried because there was a sweater in a box on a counter, and there was tea in a red tin on a shelf, and there was a man who remembered one sentence she had said on a bridge in the rain 3 weeks ago. And her whole life for the last 3 years she had been with a man who could not, consistently, remember whether she took sugar in her coffee. She cried for maybe 6 minutes. Then she stopped. She washed her face in the kitchen sink because it was closer. She opened the cabinet. The red tin was where he had said it would be. The kettle was where any reasonable person would have put a kettle. She made tea. She put the sweater on over her blouse. It fit. It was gray, the color of the sky the night of the dinner, soft wool, no logo, no tag that screamed anything. She took the tea to the couch and sat with her legs under her and watched Hartwell City go dark through the wall of windows. She did not turn on the TV. She did not call anyone. She sat. Victor came in at 6 minutes past 8. He did not call her name. He did not make noise. He simply came through the door, set his bag down, took off his coat, hung it up, and walked into the living room. He was in the same kind of dark suit as always. His tie was loose. His hair was a little wet at the temples, either from a shower somewhere or from the rain that had started outside while she was making the tea. He stopped when he saw her on the couch. He looked at her for a long, quiet beat. "You're wearing the sweater," he said. "I'm wearing the sweater." He came over. He did not sit next to her. He sat in the chair across, elbows on his knees, hands clasped, the way a doctor sits at the foot of a bed. "Tell me everything she said," he said. "Start from when she stepped in front of you. Don't paraphrase." She did. He listened. He did not interrupt. When she was done, he stayed still for a moment, his hands still clasped, his eyes on some point on the rug. "Okay," he said. "Okay what?" Alina is not going to do anything to you. She is doing what she does. She is soft-mouthing you. She thinks correctly that I have not told you the shape of the map yet. She thinks correctly that a conversation with her would rattle you. She wanted you rattled. She did not want you hurt. If the man she works for wanted you hurt, you would not have seen her coming. She said the man wants to know if I am a strategic decision. He does. Is he going to decide I'm not? He is going to decide that whatever you are, in his phrase, off the board for him. That is what he will decide after Alina reports to him. And what will the other men decide? The ones in your hallway? The ones in the port? The ones... whoever. Victor looked at her. Some of them will decide the same thing, he said. Some will not. Which ones won't? He was quiet. Victor. A man named Ilya Moretti, he said, finally. He is a man I have a problem with. He is the reason the shipment at Calaris went where it went. He is not, in my opinion, smart enough to understand Alina's report, even if he reads it. He will look at a picture of you and see leverage. That is how Ilya thinks. Everything, to him, is a handle. Is he in Hartwell? Not right now. Will he be? If he comes to Hartwell, Maya, I will know before his car leaves the airport, and he will not arrive at a hotel. He will arrive at a conversation. Maya set the tea down on the coffee table. It was almost cold. You have to tell me the truth about something, she said. Okay. When you say a conversation. Yes. What do you mean? He looked at her. He looked at her for a long time. Sometimes I mean a conversation, he said. Sometimes I mean an incentive. Sometimes I mean a man being flown home with a document in his pocket and a clear understanding of what happens if he returns. Sometimes, rarely, Maya, I mean something worse than that. I am not going to tell you which category Ilya Moretti would fall into, because I do not know yet. I am going to tell you that whichever category he falls into, the decision will be mine, and I will carry it alone. I will not lay that on you. You just did. No, I told you the shape of it. I did not put the decision in your hand. I will not. That is mine. What if I don't want you to decide it? What if I say, Victor, do not kill anyone over me? You are not required to say it. What if I do? He was quiet. If you say it, he said, I will hear you. I will listen. I will put it in the calculation. I will not lie and tell you it will be the only thing in the calculation. There will be other things. There will be my people. There will be what happens if I do nothing. There will be the message that gets sent to other men if nothing is done. But you asking will matter, Maya. It will weigh more than anything else except the safety of the people under my care, including you. That's not a yes. I know it isn't. I told you at dinner 3 weeks ago that I wouldn't give you a promise I couldn't keep. I remember. I am holding to that. It is the only way I know how to do this without lying to you. Maya leaned back into the couch. The sweater was warm. The apartment was quiet. Far below them, Hartwell City was doing what Hartwell City did. Cars, sirens, somebody laughing on a corner, a bus sighing to a stop. And up here, on this floor she had not known existed this morning. A man she had met by accident 23 days ago was sitting in a chair across from her and telling her the honest math of his life. Victor. Yes. Come sit over here. He got up. He crossed the room. He sat down on the couch, not close, leaving a hand's width between them. His forearms rested on his knees. He did not look at her. Closer, she said. He slid half a foot over her. Closer. Another half foot. She leaned her head very carefully against his shoulder. He went still. He did not move for a long time. Then, slowly, so slowly she almost did not feel it happen, he turned his head and rested his cheek, very briefly, against the top of her hair. Then he lifted it again, and she felt him breathe out, long, quiet, like a man who had been holding a breath since the night he first saw her standing under the awning of a bar 800 yards from where they were sitting. I haven't done this in a while, he said. What? Sat on a couch with someone. Why? A lot of reasons. None of them interesting. Did you love her? Whoever she was. He was quiet. Once, he said. A long time ago. It did not end well. It did not end with anyone dying, to answer the question you are probably asking. It ended with her realizing she had not been told the truth about my life, and me realizing that I was not going to be able to tell her and keep her. So she left. I helped her leave. She is alive, she is married, she has 2 children, and I have not spoken to her in 11 years. She was right to leave. Does she know you helped her leave? No. Has she thought about you since? I hope not. Maya was quiet. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be. It was the correct outcome. You don't have to call it an outcome, Victor. It was a person. He turned his head and looked at her. You are the first person, he said, in a long time to correct me when I talk like that. Get used to it. I am trying. Attempt. She stayed until 11. They did not kiss. They did not come close to kissing. She sat against his shoulder, and then, eventually, she sat up and moved back to her side of the couch. And they talked about things that were not Ilya Moretti and not Alina and not photographs. He told her about a horse he had owned briefly in his 20s, which had been a disaster. She told him about her father, who had died when she was 19, and about her mother, who had never quite recovered from being the wife of a man who died before she was 40. She told him she was afraid of becoming her mother. He said he did not think she would. She said he could not know that. He said no, he could not, but that women who became their mothers did not usually worry about becoming their mothers. They simply became them. And the fact that she feared it was evidence that it would not happen. At 11, Tomas drove her home. She slept 5 hours. In the morning, she found a second note on her kitchen counter that she had not noticed the night before because it had been in the pocket of the sweater. In case you find this later, I asked Tomas to drive past your building on the way to the apartment. Your lobby man is a new one. He is one of mine. He will be there for 2 weeks. He will not speak unless you speak to him. His name is Rehan. He drinks tea with 2 sugars. You do not have to offer him any. I only tell you because you will notice, and I do not want you to notice and be afraid. V. Maya read it twice. Then she went downstairs. The man at her lobby desk was new. He was maybe 32, broad-shouldered in a way he had clearly tried to make his jacket hide, and he had tea in a mug that sat steaming on the counter next to a neatly arranged sign-in sheet. Good morning, Miss Bennett. Good morning. Rehan, is it? He looked for half a second as if he had not expected her to know his name. Then his mouth did a very small thing that Maya was starting to recognize as a family trait of the men who worked for Victor, and he nodded. Yes, ma'am. Do you need anything? Water? A second chair? I have what I need, Miss Bennett. Okay. She went to work. The thing happened on a Tuesday, 29 days since the accidental message. Maya had gotten used, without noticing it, to a life in which a man named Rehan was in her lobby, and a man named Tomas was in a car 2 streets over, and a man she had not met was, sometimes, in the coffee shop across from her office reading a newspaper that he did not turn the pages of. She had complained about it to Victor 3 times. Victor had listened 3 times and apologized 3 times, and not removed any of them. She had not, she noticed, insisted very hard. Rausch had made his Thursday call 2 weeks before. The shipment had been handled. Rausch had been satisfied. Something else had happened at a different port, somewhere else, that Maya did not hear the name of, but Victor had come back to Hartwell for it and had stayed. On the Tuesday, Maya was walking home from a dinner with Aaron. Just a sister dinner. A Thai place 4 blocks from her apartment. She had told Rehan she was walking back. Rehan had, as always, not objected, and had, as always, sent a text she did not see to a person she did not know that she was walking. It was 9:30. The street was not empty. It was never empty on that stretch of 8th, not on a Tuesday. A couple was walking ahead of her. A man on a bike passed. A delivery driver was stacking boxes at the back of a van near her building. The van was the thing. The van was a thing that a week earlier would not have been a thing. It was parked half up on the curb. Its rear doors were open. The driver was alone and stacked too slowly and did not look at her as she approached. His hands were too clean. Maya kept walking. She did not look at him. She did not change her pace. She was 4 strides past the van when she heard a second set of footsteps. Not in front of her, behind. Close. Closer than a person should walk behind another person on a sidewalk in a city at 9:30 at night. She did not turn around. She did what she had been told in a 6-minute conversation in Victor's apartment the week before to do in exactly this situation. She stepped off the sidewalk on her left into the street, and she walked between two parked cars, and she crossed to the opposite side of 8th, moving at a normal pace, because the only thing worse than being followed was letting the person following you know that you had noticed. The footsteps paused. Then they came after her. Across the street, from a black sedan she had not registered as a black sedan, 2 men got out. They did not run. They walked. They walked in the way that 2 men walk when they are sure of how a thing is going to end, and the thing they were sure of was that Maya Bennett was going to be in their car in the next 60 seconds. She opened her mouth to scream. She did not get the chance, because from somewhere behind her, a 4th man, a man she had not seen, a man who must have been on her side of the street the whole time without her realizing, stepped between her and the 2 men from the sedan, and he did not say a word, and he did not raise his hands, and in a single movement that was too fast for her to follow, the lead man from the sedan was on the pavement. The 2nd man reached under his coat. The 4th man reached under his coat faster. The 2nd man stopped reaching. "Miss Bennett," the 4th man said very quietly, without turning his head. "Please walk to the corner. The silver car. Get in the back seat. Do not run." Maya walked. She did not run. A silver car was at the corner. Its back door was already open. Inside was Tomas, in the driver's seat, his window down, his eyes steady. "Miss Bennett," he said. "In, please." "In." She got in. Tomas's hand for just 1 second touched her shoulder through the gap in the seats, and then he was driving. They turned the corner, then another corner. Then they were on a street Maya did not know, and then on one she did, and then they were on the road to the bridge. "Where are we going?" "The house, ma'am." "Tomas, what happened? Who were those men? Is the man back there?" "He is fine, Miss Bennett. The men from the sedan are alive. Mr. Hale was very clear before this evening that he wished them alive. They are alive. They are also at this moment being escorted to a location where they will answer some questions. Mr. Hale will be at the house when we arrive." He knew. He knew there was a plan. He did not know the night. He has had, Miss Bennett, he has had a man within 40 feet of you every time you have been outside your office for the last 9 days. Tonight the man was a little further away than usual because the sidewalk on 8th is narrow, and the men who wanted you wanted to be sure he was not on the same side of the street. He was on the other side. It was a near thing. "It is the last near thing Mr. Hale told me to tell you. Tonight," he says, "is the end of near things." Maya stared out the window. She did not cry. She did not exactly feel anything. Her hands were in her lap. They were steady, which surprised her. "Tomas?" "Yes, ma'am." "Is Victor angry?" Tomas was quiet for a long moment. "Miss Bennett," he said, "I have worked for Mr. Hale for 14 years. I have never in 14 years seen him as angry as he was when the call came in." "Is Ilya Moretti in Hartwell?" "He will be, ma'am, by morning." By morning. By morning. The car crossed the bridge. The water was black. On the far side, Ridge Hollow was a handful of yellow porch lights in a dark stand of trees, and beyond the trees was the long drive. And beyond the long drive was the stone house with the yellow windows. And beyond the door of the stone house was a man who was, tonight, going to have to make a decision. He had told her, more than once, would be his to carry alone. Maya Bennett sat in the back of a silver car in her gray sweater, Victor's sweater, and watched the dark trees of Ridge Hollow come up. And she understood, very calmly, very clearly, for the first time since a text message had gone to the wrong number, that the life she had been standing at the edge of had just closed behind her like a gate. She was not on the outside of Victor's world anymore. She was in it. And the man who had tried to take her off the sidewalk on 8th Street was going to find that out, tonight, in a room she was never going to have to see. The gate opened before Tomas had to slow down for it. That was the first thing Maya noticed. Someone, somewhere, had been watching the car on the road. The second thing she noticed was that there were more people at the house than there had been the night of the dinner. 2 cars she did not recognize were parked at the side of the drive. A man she had not seen before was standing just off the front steps with a phone to his ear. Another man was inside the foyer when Tomas opened the door for her, and he did not introduce himself. He simply stepped aside. Victor was in the hallway. He was in the same suit he had worn to work that morning, except the jacket was off, and the sleeves were rolled up past his elbows, which was something she had never seen him do. His tie was gone. His hair was a little out of place, in the front, in a small way that in any other man she would not have noticed, but in Victor, who was never out of place, hit her like a flag. He crossed the hallway in 4 strides and stopped 2 feet short of her. He did not touch her. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Anywhere." "Anywhere." "Look at me." She looked at him. His pale eyes were not cold. They were not warm either. They were a color she had not seen them be before. And her body understood it before her mind did. It was the look of a man who had, in the car on the bridge, been not sure of the answer to the question he was now asking, and was now at 2 feet of distance in a stone hallway, being sure for the first time in 90 minutes. He exhaled. It was not a sound. It was a change in the room. "Okay," he said, quiet, almost to himself. "Okay." "Victor, come sit down." "Victor." "Come sit down, Maya, please, sit down. Then we talk." He walked her to the small study she had sat in the night of the dinner, the 2 chairs, the lamp, the carafe. He did not sit this time. He stood at the window with his hands in his pockets, his back to her, and for a long moment he did not say anything. Then he said, without turning around, "Ilya Moretti is in a room in this house." Maya's hands went cold. "He's here. He is in a room on the lower level. He arrived 40 minutes ago. He is physically uninjured. He is not being physically injured. I want you to understand that clearly before we talk about anything else. I have not laid a hand on him. Nobody in my employ has laid a hand on him." "Okay. He is alive and he is unhurt, and he is sitting in a chair and he is talking because he understands now that he has made an error, and he would like very much to not compound the error. He has been talking for about 20 minutes. He has, in that time, given me the name of the 2 men in the sedan, the name of the man in the van, the name of the man who took the photograph 3 weeks ago, and the name of the person who paid him to do all of it. That last name is not Ilya Moretti's. Ilya Moretti is an animal on a leash. The leash is held by a man named Grigor Varga, Yelena's brother." "Yelena." "Yes." "Yelena from the dinner." "Yes." Maya sat down in one of the chairs. She did not remember the sitting. She was suddenly in the chair. "Victor," she said. "I am telling you all of this," he said, still at the window, still with his back to her, "because I told you I would not lie to you. I want you to know what has happened tonight and what is about to happen. And I want you to decide before I walk out of this room whether any of what is about to happen is a thing you can live with. Tell me." He turned around. He looked for a second like a man much older than the man who had stood in the rain outside Alder and Finch 23 days ago. "Here is what is going to happen," he said. "Ilya Moretti is going to spend tonight in this house. Tomorrow morning he is going to be taken to an airport, where he will board a plane. He will not return to this country. He will sign documents before he leaves that will make his return commercially, legally, and personally impossible. He will lose everything he has in this country, which is a great deal. He will lose his business. He will lose his apartment. He will lose the car that he is, I am told, proud of. He will have enough left to live in the country he has flown to without going hungry, and not $1 more. He will never, Maya, be in a room with you again. Not in a city you are in, not in a city you might be in, not even in a country that borders one you might be in. I will know where he is for the rest of his life, and he will know that I know. That is what is happening to Ilya Moretti." And Grigor Varga. Victor did not speak for a moment. "Grigor Varga," he said, "is a harder problem. Grigor Varga is a man who has, for a long time, believed that he is protected by the fact that he does not, himself, hold a knife. He pays other men to hold the knife. He has done this for 18 years. He has, in those 18 years, taken 3 wives of men like me, 1 daughter of a man like me, and twice the hands of men who worked for me. Literal hands. He returned them in a box. I am telling you this because I do not want you to find it out later." "Okay." "Grigor Varga sent Ilya Moretti at you tonight because he thinks you are the first thing I have loved in a long time, and he is correct, and he wanted to know how I would react. He wanted to see it. He has been waiting for it. He does not want to kill you. He wanted, tonight, to put you in a car, take you to a location, and let you go 8 hours later untouched, in a way that would make me aware of what he was capable of at any time he chose. That was the plan. That is what he built. It failed, because my man was closer than he expected. It has failed before it began, and Grigor is, as of about 20 minutes ago, aware that it has failed. He is, right now, in a house of his own, deciding what to do about the fact of the failure. What is he going to decide? He's going to decide whether to escalate or to retreat. He is a proud man and a stupid man in the ways pride makes men stupid, and so the odds are not 50-50. They are 60-40, escalate. Which means that if I do nothing tonight, if I let Ilya leave the country in the morning, and I do not go after Grigor, then in some number of weeks or months, Grigor will try something larger, and the next time I may not have a man on the correct side of the street. Maya's mouth was dry. And if you do something tonight, if I do something tonight, Victor said, I will go to the house where Grigor is sitting, and I will have a conversation with him in a room without his bodyguards, because his bodyguards work. 3 of them, for me. And he does not know this. And in that room, I will offer him a set of terms that are very bad for him, which he will accept, because the alternative I will offer him is worse. He will sign papers of his own. He will dissolve 3 things he has spent 18 years building. He will retire, in effect, from the business he is in at 57 years old. He will be allowed to keep his house and his money and his wife and his dogs. He will not be allowed to ever again be a man who sends other men at women to frighten other men. That is what I am going to ask him for tonight. He will give it to me. And if, at any point in the next 20 years, he forgets that he gave it to me, there are arrangements in place that will remind him. Those arrangements will not involve his wife or his dogs. You have my word on that. Maya looked at him. You are telling me all of this, she said, because you told me you wouldn't do anything on my behalf without telling me. Yes. You are asking me. I am telling you what I intend to do, and I am asking you if there is any part of it that you need me to change before I do it. Is there a version of tonight, she said quietly, where somebody dies? He was very still. There is a version of tonight, he said, where Grigor refuses the terms I offer and becomes agitated and puts his hand somewhere in his house where I do not want his hand to go, and something happens quickly that neither of us planned. I do not expect that version to happen. I have known Grigor for a long time. He is a man who, when cornered, sits down. He does not stand up. But I cannot promise it, Maya. I cannot sit here and tell you that no one is going to die tonight, because I do not know. Can someone else go? Not you. No. Why? Because Grigor Varga is my problem. I made him my problem 18 years ago, when I made decisions that earned me a man like him in my life. I do not hand my problems to other men. And Ilya. Ilya has been handed to other men. Other men are taking him to the airport. Other men are walking him onto the plane. I do not need to do that one. I need to do this one. Maya looked down at her hands. Her hands, she noticed, were still steady. Still steady after everything. Some part of her that had always shaken in the presence of conflict had, somewhere between Alder and Finch and 8th Street, gotten quiet. Victor? Yes? I don't want you to kill him. I am not planning to. I know, I heard you, but if the version happens, the version where his hand goes somewhere, if it happens and there's a choice, a real choice, then don't. Don't kill him. Don't kill him. Come home. He looked at her. Come home, Victor. That is the first time, he said, that anyone has ever said that to me. I know. Maya. Yes. If I walk into that room and Grigor lifts his hand against me and I have a second to decide, you are asking me to decide something that is not always mine to decide. I know. I do not know that I can promise you. I know you can't. I'm not asking you to promise. I'm asking you to try. And if you can't, if the hand goes up and there's no second, then you come home and you tell me, and I will be here and we will live with it, you and me. I am not going to run out on you because you came home from a room. Do you understand me? He stared at her. Say that again, he said. I am not going to run out on you. Not tonight, not after tonight. Come home. Victor walked across the small study. He sat down in the chair across from her. He did not touch her. He did not reach for her hand. He leaned his elbows on his knees and he put his hands together and he looked at the rug. Okay, he said. Okay? Okay. I will try. If I can, I will. I am not promising you I can. I am promising you that I will try. And you will come home. I will come home. To me. To you, Maya. She breathed in. She breathed out. Go, she said. He stood up. At the door he paused. Maya. Yes. There is a woman in this house tonight. Her name is Dr. Amaral. She is a friend of mine. She is a physician. I asked her to come tonight because I did not know earlier what shape you would be in when you arrived. She is in the kitchen. She is not going to approach you unless you want her to. She will sit with you if you want. She will not sit with you if you don't. I mention her because I do not want you to be alone in this house while I am gone, and I do not want you to think that the woman in the kitchen is a stranger I left you with. She is not a stranger. She is a friend. Thank you. I will call you from the car, both ways. You will know where I am every 10 minutes. If something changes, someone will tell you before it changes. You will not be surprised by anything tonight, Maya. I promise you that much. That I can promise. Go. He went. Shaket. Dr. Amaral was in her 60s, small, with short gray hair, and she did not, as promised, approach Maya. She looked up from a book when Maya came into the kitchen, nodded, and said, There's soup on the stove. I didn't make it. Your housekeeper made it before she left. It's good. I had some. Thank you. Take the chair by the window. It's the warm chair. Maya took the chair by the window. Dr. Amaral went back to her book. Somewhere in the house, quietly, a television was playing a channel of news with the sound turned very low. Maya did not watch the TV. She ate 3 spoonfuls of soup. She set the bowl down. Her phone, which had been silent for 20 minutes, buzzed. Victor. In the car, 18 minutes out. Okay. Victor. Eat something. I am. Victor. Soup? Yes. Victor. Good. She sat with her hands around the warm bowl, and she looked out the window at the garden, which was dark and wet, and she thought about the shape of her life, about the apartment on Crestmore Avenue with the radiator that banged, about the photograph on Brielle's profile, about Daniel in the lobby with the grocery store flowers, about Alina on the sidewalk with a phone in her hand and a card in her pocket, about a woman named Yelena in an emerald dress saying, Be a little less good, it will frighten the men, about a sweater on a counter and a red tin of tea, about a stone house and a small study and a man at a window with his back to her, being honest. She thought also about the part of her that had, 20 minutes earlier, said, Come home to a man who is walking out of a room to have a conversation with another man that might end with someone on a floor. She thought, I do not know who that woman is exactly, but she is mine, and I think I am going to keep her. The phone buzzed. Victor. At the gate. Okay. Victor. I love you. She stared at the screen. She stared at the screen for a long time, because it was not the kind of thing he had ever said, not in the ways he had never said it, not in the sweater on the counter way, not in the second shelf of tea way, not in the second shelf of tea way, not in the your hands are probably shaking way. And she realized, sitting in the kitchen of a stone house with a bowl of soup going cold between her hands, that he had said all of those things for weeks and had not, until tonight, said the sentence. And he had said it now because he was walking into a room in which he did not know what was going to happen, and he wanted the sentence to have been said. She typed, Come home. Then she typed, Please. Then she typed because she had decided, in the chair by the window, that she was not going to be a woman who waited to be loved before she loved back. I love you too. The phone went silent. She sat in the chair. 40 minutes passed. Dr. Amaral got up at one point to pour tea. She set a cup on the table next to Maya without saying anything, and sat back down with her book. The news on the television changed from one story to another story. A man somewhere in the world had done a thing. A weather pattern was moving across a region. Maya watched none of it. At the 47th minute, the phone buzzed. Victor, in the car, coming home. He signed. Maya put her hand over her mouth. Victor. Alive. Both of us. All of us. Nobody hurt. I will tell you everything when I get there. 34 minutes. She did not type back. She cried, briefly, over the soup. Dr. Amaral did not look up. 32 minutes later, the front door opened. Maya did not move from the chair. She heard him come in. She heard him take his coat off. She heard him speak, quietly, to someone in the hall. One sentence, something about a car, something about a timeline. And then she heard his footsteps, tired, coming toward the kitchen. He stood in the doorway. He was exactly as he had been when he left. He was completely different. He looked at Dr. Amaral, and Dr. Amaral closed her book and stood up and walked past him without either of them speaking. She touched his shoulder once as she went by. He let her. Then it was only the two of them. He walked across the kitchen. He did not stop at the table. He walked around it. He pulled out the chair next to Maya's, and he sat down in it, heavily, the way a man sits down who has been standing for 16 hours. And he put his forearms on the table, and he looked at her. Hi, he said. Hi. He signed. You said. I thought about what you asked me, in the car, on the way there. I thought about it the whole drive. Okay. I did not have to find out. Okay? He did not lift his hand. He looked at me for a long time. He looked at the papers. He said, You're a lucky man, Hale. And I said, I am. And he signed. Maya laughed. It came out of her wet and shaking and a little ugly. You said you were lucky. I said I was, because I am. Victor, yes. What made him? I told him something I have not told anyone before. What? Victor looked at her. I told him there was a woman in my house, he said, who had asked me an hour before to come home. And I told him that in 18 years nobody had asked me to come home. And I told him that whether or not I came home tonight was not going to be decided by him, and I wanted him to understand that. I wanted him to understand that if he made a decision in the next 5 minutes that caused me not to come home, he would not be a man who survived his decision. I did not say it as a threat, Maya. I said it as a fact, and he is a man, for all his faults, who understands facts. And he signed. Maya sat for a moment. Then she said, That is the most insane thing I have ever heard anyone say. Yes. It is also the most romantic thing I have ever heard anyone say. I do not know how to be romantic, Maya. I do not have the practice. You're doing fine. He smiled. It was the first full smile she had seen on his face in all the time she had known him. It was crooked and tired, and it did not stay very long. But it was a full smile, and it was hers. Come here, she said. He came. She kissed him for the first time at a kitchen table in a stone house in Ridge Hollow at 2:41 in the morning, with a bowl of cold soup between them and the news on a television in another room, and Dr. Amaral somewhere upstairs in a guest bed with a book. And outside the window, the garden was wet and the trees were black and the wind was moving in them. And Hartwell City was 11 miles away across a bridge. And in the city, she had an apartment with a radiator that banged, and a lobby man named Rayhan with tea in a mug. And in the city she had been, a month ago, a woman standing in a dress in the rain outside a bar, typing a message that would, by mistake, go to the wrong number. She thought, in the middle of the kiss, about the 1-inch slip. She thought, thank God for it. Not in the way people say when they mean nothing by it. In the way people say when they mean, I would not go back and fix it if I could. The rest of that year happened the way Victor had said the hard things would happen. Slowly, and in paperwork, and at airports. Ilya Moretti got on his plane. He never came back. A company he owned in Hartwell was quietly purchased and dissolved. A warehouse that had been his was sold to a family that turned it into a bakery. The bakery, 6 months later, was doing well. Grigor Varga kept his word. He stayed in his house. He stopped having the dinners he used to have. Yelena Varga, who was, after all, not his wife but his sister, came to Maya's apartment on a Saturday in the spring, uninvited and unannounced, and sat at Maya's kitchen table and said flatly, I want to apologize for the part I played. I did not know what he was going to do. I knew later. I should have told you. I did not. I am telling you now. She did not ask to be forgiven. Maya did not offer to. Yelena drank 1 cup of coffee, stood up, and left. And that was the last time either of them saw each other, and it was, Maya thought, probably the correct outcome for 2 women who did not owe each other anything except honesty. Daniel Vance, for his part, quietly moved to a different city. Maya did not ask how. Victor did not tell her. She understood after a few months that she did not want to know, and she understood after a few more months that this was a different thing from not knowing when he was lying. It was a thing she had decided with her eyes open not to ask. There was a difference. She was learning it. She moved out of the Cressmore apartment in April, not into the stone house, not yet, into a place of her own, on her own lease, that Victor did not pay for. She made the rent in the way she had always made her rent, which was by working, because she had not stopped working, and did not intend to. Victor had offered twice to make it easier. She had said no, twice. On the 3rd time she had said, "Victor, I am not going to be a woman whose life is paid for. Do not ask me again." He did not ask again. He did, without asking, have someone fix the radiator in the new apartment within the first week, which she let go because she was not going to win every argument, and she did not want to. She met his people. Slowly. Tomas had dinner at her new place, with his wife, who was a small, sharp woman named Elba, who laughed at everything Tomas did not say out loud. Rehan came off her lobby and went back to his regular work, and a woman named Priya took his place for 3 months until Victor, quietly, one morning over coffee, said, "I think we can take Priya off the building now, if you're comfortable." And Maya had, after a minute of sitting with the question, said, "Yes." It had been the first time since the night of 8th Street that her building had had only a regular lobby man in it. She had been afraid for a day. Then the day had ended, and she had not been afraid the second day, and by the 4th day she had not thought about it. She learned over those months the hardest thing about the life she had chosen, which was that it was not, for her, dramatic most of the time. There were no more 8th Streets. There were no more dinners with Rausch. Rausch, in fact, sent her a small, very good bottle of wine at Christmas, with a card that said, "With respect, K.R." And Maya laughed about it for a week. Most nights, most weekends, most mornings were ordinary. Victor came home. Victor left again. Victor called from cities she could not always name. He was, some weeks, completely hers. He was, some weeks, not. She learned to live in both. She also learned, and this was the harder lesson, that the thing she had been afraid of at the dinner table 3 weeks in, "I am not going to be somebody's project," had not, in the end, been what Victor wanted from her. He did not, she realized over months, want to fix her. He wanted, very badly and very quietly, for somebody to have noticed him. That was all. He had spent 20 years being known and feared and useful to people who needed him for things, and he had not. In those 20 years, had anyone asked him how he was on a Tuesday? She started asking him on Tuesdays. He did not at first know how to answer. By the summer, he did. They fought sometimes. Not often. Usually about small things that were covers for bigger things. Once, badly, about a trip he took without telling her, because he had decided in his own head that she would worry, and had not given her the choice of worrying. She had told him, across her own kitchen, that if he ever again made a decision about what she was allowed to know, she would go. She had meant it. He had known she meant it. He had not done it again. Once she went to him, late at night, and told him she was not sure, some days, whether she was still the woman she had been before the wrong number. He had listened. He had not argued with her. He had said, "You are more the woman you were than you think. The parts of you that are different are the parts you were not allowed to have when you were with him. That is not less of you. That is more." She had thought about that for a long time. She had decided in the end that he was right, and also that she was going to keep checking, because a woman who stopped checking was a woman who stopped knowing. On an evening in October, a year and 2 weeks after a message had gone to the wrong number, Victor took her to dinner at the diner on 5th and Morrow. Not a restaurant. The diner. The one where she had eaten toast the morning after everything, with a stranger's voice in her phone telling her to drink water before coffee. He had remembered. Of course he had remembered. They sat in a booth. They ordered toast. She laughed at him. He let her. A waitress who did not know either of them refilled their coffee. A woman at the counter was crying, quietly, over a plate she was not eating, And Maya, without thinking about it, caught the waitress's eye and nodded toward the woman. And the waitress understood and brought the woman a fresh cup of tea, and the woman looked up, surprised, and took it, and did not cry again that Maya could see. Victor watched all of this. When the waitress was gone, he reached across the table. He took her hand. "I want to ask you something," he said, "and I am not going to ask it in a restaurant full of people, because I do not want you to decide in 3 seconds. Maya looked at him. "Victor," she said, "are you doing the thing?" "I'm doing the thing." "In the diner?" "Near the diner." She laughed. She laughed, and she cried a little, both at once, which was something she had learned over the year that her face could do. "We're near the diner," she said. "On the bridge." "Hawthorne Bridge." "Yes, if you want. If you don't want, somewhere else." "I thought the bridge. You stood on it the day your sister boxed his stuff. You told me where you were. I walked past it the next morning. I have walked past it, on and off, ever since. It is, I think, the place I started to love you, although I did not know it yet. It would be a good place, if you wanted. Take me to the bridge, Victor." He paid. He helped her into her coat. They walked in the dark, in a wind that was colder than it should have been for October, to the bridge that went over the river at the edge of the park. They stood at the middle. The water below them was black and slow. He took a box out of his coat pocket. He did not get down on one knee. He did not do any of the things that Maya understood she had not wanted anyway. He held the box in his hand. "Maya," he said, "I am not offering you a safe life. I told you that the night we met, and I have not stopped telling you it, and I will not lie to you now. I am offering you a true one. I am offering you a life where I will tell you what I am doing before I do it, and I will come home when I say I will come home, and I will say things like I love you in text messages at unsuitable times. I am offering you a life where nobody will ever again stop you on a sidewalk who I have not told you about. I am offering you also a life that has fights in it, and long weeks, and some amount of silence because I am a quiet man, and I will not become a loud one for your sake. I am offering you all of it, the whole shape. I would like, if you would have me, to spend the rest of it next to you." His son. Maya looked at him. She thought for one long second about the girl who had stood in a dress outside a bar called the Rusted Crown with a phone in her shaking hand. She thought about the toast. She thought about the sweater. She thought about the sentence "come home," and how, when she had said it the first time, she had not known if he would. She thought, he did. He has. He will. "Yes," she said. "Yes. Yes, Victor. Of course, yes. Put the ring on. It's freezing." He laughed. He put the ring on. They stood on the bridge for a while. She did not want a fairy tale. She had tried one, once, with a man who had bought a ring and returned it, and then worn her own watch on another woman's wrist, and the fairy tale had ended on a sidewalk in the rain. What she had now was not a fairy tale. It was not safe. It was not, most of the time, dramatic. It was a man who came home, and a woman who had learned to say "come home," and a life the two of them were building out of whatever the world had left them, which, in the end, was more than either of them had expected to get. If there was a lesson in any of it, Maya thought, standing on the bridge with her hand cold in his and his cold in hers, it was this: that the wrong number is sometimes the right number, that a life can turn on a thumb's width of distance, that the man who is killing you slowly in a kitchen with small lies about lipstick is more dangerous than the man who tells you on the first night exactly what he is. That honesty is not softness, that love, the kind worth keeping, does not promise you safety. It promises you that when you ask somebody to come home, they will try. And the trying, if they mean it, is enough. She had sent a message, once, that was meant for a coward. It had gone to the man who would, 1 year and 2 weeks later, ask her to marry him on a bridge over a slow black river. She squeezed his hand. They walked back to the diner. They did not say anything on the walk. The waitress was at the door, closing up, and she smiled at them through the glass and turned the sign over, and Victor lifted a hand and she lifted one back. They kept walking. Somewhere across the city, in a fourth-floor apartment on Crestmore Avenue that was not hers anymore, a radiator was probably banging in an empty room, and somewhere, a new woman was probably sitting on the edge of a bathtub with mascara half done, looking at a photograph on a stranger's profile, not knowing yet that her life had just split in half. Maya hoped for that woman, wherever she was, that when the time came, her thumb would slip. She hoped it would slip in the right direction. And she walked home through Hartwell City with the man who had once been the wrong number and was now, for as long as either of them was alive, the only one she was ever going to call.